I stood at the gates of the Chaos Sacred Land on the Nine Heavens continent. This place used to be the most powerful sect in existence, but ever since the Chaos Great Emperor ascended to godhood, it had slowly fallen into decline. Still, even a fading giant is a giant. To the rest of the world, it remained a top-tier power. Today was the day they opened their doors to recruit new disciples. Thousands of people from neighboring kingdoms and noble families had swarmed the area. The crowd was a literal sea of people, all hoping for a chance at greatness. I fought with everything I had, pushing and shoving until I finally squeezed through the mountain gate. As I stepped onto the massive stone plaza, a notification flashed in my mind. I had finally completed the first task assigned by my system. I ignored the chatter around me and closed my eyes to check my status. It was called the Epiphany system. I came from a minor noble family in a small kingdom, and we didn't have the influence to get me in early. I had to wait nearly 2 decades for this recruitment day just to set foot on the grounds. Ding! The space in front of him tore open like a piece of paper, and golden light spilled out. A massive, ancient gray bell descended from the rift and slammed onto the plaza. The sound it made wasn't just a noise. It was like the humming of gods. My soul trembled. This was the Chaos Bell, a legendary imperial weapon. They say the Chaos Great Emperor once used this bell to sweep through the heavens and earth, undefeated. Even among all the divine weapons in history, this bell ranked in the top 3. Line up, the elder commanded. Place your hand on the bell. If you can make it ring, you stay. The testing began. One by one, you'd stepped up. But instead of a ring, the bell would emit a soft golden glow and the person would vanish. Panic started to spread through the crowd until the elder spoke up. Don't worry, the bell has a spirit. If you fail, it simply teleports you back to your home to save you the journey. I chuckled to myself. That was actually a pretty nice feature. A free plane ticket home if I failed. But I didn't plan on failing. I watched the others closely, trying to figure out the trick, but it was impossible. Everyone just closed their eyes for a second and then disappeared. Time ticked by. Dozens, then hundreds failed. The atmosphere grew heavy with tension. Then, suddenly, a loud, resonant chime echoed through the entire mountain range. The crowd erupted. A young man stood before the bell, shaking with excitement. 1 ring, the elder said, his voice unimpressed. You barely have the qualifications to join. You will be an outer disciple. Someone take him away. A man in black robes swept down from the sky, grabbed the kid, and flew off. The rest of us were stunned. Just 1 ring for the lowest rank. This was going to be harder than I thought. Elder, someone shouted from the crowd. How many times can the bell ring? And what does it mean for our status? The elder smiled faintly. The Chaos Bell can ring 9 times. 1 ring makes you an outer disciple. 2 rings for the inner sect. 3 rings, and you become a true disciple. If you can make it ring 4 times, a sect elder will take you as their personal student. If you make it ring 5 times, you become the student of a supreme elder. The elder continued, his voice echoing across the plaza. 6 rings, and you are named the Holy Son of our Chaos Holy Land. As for 7, 8, or 9 rings, those haven't happened in many years. But if someone ever achieves that, they will immediately become our divine son. A wave of longing swept through the crowd. Everyone stared at the bell with hungry eyes. The testing continued, but as time slipped away, the plaza grew emptier. What shocked me was the success rate. Out of hundreds of thousands of candidates, only a few hundred had actually passed. The odds were pathetic. Among those few hundred, the best anyone had managed was 3 rings. I noticed the elder's expression shifting. He wasn't looking kind or welcoming anymore. His face was dark and gloomy. He was clearly disappointed. Is every generation worse than the last? He muttered, letting out a heavy, sorrowful sigh. Is our Chaos Holy Land truly destined to decline? I understood why he was worried. Usually, geniuses showed their talent early and were snatched up by the other 5 Holy Lands. Our sect had a strange, ancient rule. You weren't allowed to practice any cultivation before joining. That meant everyone here was just an ordinary mortal. The real prodigies were already halfway down their cultivation paths, so they never even looked at us. It was a rule passed down by the ancestors, and no one dared to change it. Finally, it was my turn. I stepped forward, my heart hammering against my ribs. I'd been waiting in line for so long, and now I was standing right in front of the massive chaos bell. I reached out, my palm trembling slightly, and touched the cold metal. Boom! My head exploded with a sudden vibration. Thousands of golden characters flooded my mind, swirling and evolving into images of all things in heaven and earth. They were explaining the great Tao of chaos itself. In that instant, I realized the secret. To ring the bell, I had to comprehend these golden characters. If I understood the basics, it would ring. The deeper my understanding, the more times it would chime. I didn't hesitate. I closed my eyes and whispered in my mind, "System, use one epiphany." A roar echoed in my soul. My thoughts became crystal clear. Inspiration flooded me like a tidal wave. Those golden characters transformed into symbols that burned into my pupils. I realized this scripture was called the chaos language. Once mastered, I could borrow the power of the bell. The stronger I became, the more power I could draw. If I ever reached the saint realm, I could actually refine this bell and make it mine. I lost myself in that mysterious state of enlightenment. I had no idea that the world outside was already screaming. The moment I activated the epiphany, the bell rang. The people still waiting in line watched me with pure envy. They knew that even with one ring, I was officially in. Up on the high stage, the elder glanced at me and shook his head. He didn't see any special physical traits or hidden potential. To him, I looked like a nobody who would probably stop at one ring. Dong! The second ring vibrated through the air, releasing a soft golden light. The envy in the crowd turned into bitter jealousy. 2 rings meant I was an inner disciple. The elder looked surprised now. He hadn't expected a plain-looking kid like me to pull that off. Dong! The third ring followed immediately. Now the crowd was dead silent. The elder actually stood up, his face filled with shock. He couldn't understand it. I didn't have a special body or high spiritual energy. In his eyes, I was barely qualified to ring it once. How was I hitting 3? He possessed wisdom eyes that could see a mortal's talent perfectly. He had predicted everyone else's results with total accuracy, but he had been completely wrong about me. According to his calculations, I shouldn't have been able to ring it at all. Dong! The 4th ring sent the plaza into an absolute frenzy. People were losing their minds. The elder's expression turned dead serious. 4 rings meant I was eligible to be a personal student of a sect elder. I was officially a super genius. "What is happening?" he muttered, rubbing his eyes. "Are my wisdom eyes failing me?" He pushed his spiritual energy into his eyes, making them glow with light as he stared at me, trying to find some hidden secret. But no matter how hard he looked, I still appeared ordinary. Dong! The 5th ring sounded. The crowd had gone from shock to numb. The elder couldn't sit still anymore. He stood at the edge of the stage, his eyes burning like torches as he watched me. Deep inside the Holy Land, several powerful divine senses swept across the sky, locking onto the plaza. 5 rings had officially woken up the big bosses. Dong! The 6th ring shook the earth. My body began to float off the ground. My ordinary skin started emitting pulses of pale gold light. "A blessing," someone screamed. "The chaos bell is giving him a blessing." In the sky, ancient whispers echoed through the void. 6 rings meant I could be the Holy Sun. If I stayed lucky, I could one day lead the entire chaos Holy Land. The elder was shaking with excitement now. One monster was worth more than 10,000 regular geniuses. But the bell wasn't finished. Dong! The 7th ring erupted. The elder's face went pale with shock. The chaos bell exploded with blinding golden light, illuminating the entire sky. I didn't see any of it. I just sat there, suspended in the air with my eyes closed, completely immersed in the chaos. The golden light from the chaos bell washed over me, warm and cleansing. A massive white barrier formed around me, wrapping my body like a cocoon. I felt like an infant back in my mother's womb. My bones were being remolded, and my marrow was being washed clean. I was returning to a state of primal purity. Up on the stage, the elder's eyes were glued to me. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. 7 rings, he choked out. The chaos bell is helping him wash his marrow and return to the fetal state. He looked like he wanted to cry with joy. He muttered about how long it had been since a monster like me appeared. God is blessing the chaos Holy Land. But he wasn't the only one watching. Deep within the sect, ancient beings were waking up. I just came out of seclusion and found such a genius. A booming voice echoed through the air. This kid is mine. Nobody steals him from me. Old ancestor Bummy, you want to snatch my disciple? Another voice thundered back, crackling with electricity. You're dreaming. The sky itself seemed to tear apart. A massive black fist and a bolt of purple lightning collided in the clouds, shattering the space like glass. The elder on stage trembled. He knew those voices. These were super experts from the ancient era who had been sleeping for thousands of years. Just the fact that they were awake proved how rare 7 rings truly were. Find out his name. The elder barked at a nearby deacon. Where did he come from? Quickly. Then, the bell rang again. Dong. The 8th ring. The elder's entire body shook. He stared at me with pure disbelief. 8 rings hadn't happened in ages. This was the kind of talent that turned old monsters into desperate beggars. Deep in the forbidden grounds of the Holy Land, the lids of ancient coffins literally exploded. Pale, withered hands reached out from the darkness. These were the living fossils of the sect, ancestors so old they were more ghosts than man. They crawled out of their graves, their souls projecting powerful waves across the sky. If anyone tries to snatch this disciple, a domineering voice roared, I will bury them under a latrine for 10,000 years. The very laws of the world seemed to tremble at his words. The sky was now crowded. Powerful figures stood in the air like gods and demons, overlooking the plaza. Every heavy hitter in the Chaos Holy Land was here. Dong, the 9th ring. The entire Holy Land went into a frenzy. The candidates in the plaza stood frozen, their mouths hanging open. The elder didn't care about decorum anymore. He jumped down from the stage and rushed to my side, his face flushed with excitement. 9 rings, he whispered. The Son of God is born. In our sect, the Son of God held a status equal to the Holy Lord. He was ranked higher than elders, even higher than the Grand Elders. The elder stood next to me like a bodyguard, protecting me with a look of absolute reverence. He didn't need to. With all those ancestors watching from the void, nobody could touch a hair on my head, but he wanted to show his loyalty. He was beaming with pride. He was the one hosting this recruitment. If I eventually became a great emperor, his name would be written in the history books forever. To him, I was better than any genius. I was someone who could stand toe-to-toe with the children of the gods. The sect was boiling. Thousands of experts were flying in the sky, all staring at the plaza. Whether it was the fossils from the coffins, the sleeping ancestors, or the current holy sons and geniuses, every single eye was on me. I sat there, bathed in golden light, looking like a saint who had just achieved enlightenment. To make it ring 9 times, he had to completely understand the chaos chant, one expert remarked. Even people who have cultivated for years can't do that. He's just a mortal. How is his comprehension this high? The other 5 holy lands have their sons of God. Another old man cried, tears streaming down his face. Finally, we have ours. Our rise starts today. The younger generation looked at me with curiosity. To them, I looked incredibly ordinary. Most geniuses had glowing skin or swirling energy around them, but I looked like a regular guy. Yet, this regular guy had just turned their world upside down. Inside the light, I felt amazing. It was better than the best massage I'd ever had. I stretched my limbs, feeling my body become light and agile. All my old aches and pains were gone. Suddenly, a cold shiver ran down my spine. I felt like 1,000 eyes were boring into me. I slowly opened my eyes and looked around. My heart nearly stopped. I was surrounded. The elders standing right in front of me, along with all those powerful figures floating in the sky, wouldn't stop staring. My skin started to crawl. I felt incredibly exposed, like a bug under a microscope. The elder's gaze was the worst. It was so intense and heated that it actually made me nervous. For a second, I honestly wondered if he was into men. I cleared my throat and took a small, hesitant step back. I really didn't want him getting the wrong idea. Xiao Yun, the elder said, his voice trembling with excitement. Congratulations on joining our Chaos Holy Land. You made the Chaos Bell ring 9 times. From this moment on, you are our Holy Land Son of God. He looked at me like I was the most precious treasure in the entire world. I stood there, completely stunned. I knew I'd make the bell ring, but 9 times? That was beyond my wildest dreams. My heart hammered against my ribs. Even a fool knew what being a son of God meant. It meant resources, protection, and a guaranteed path to becoming a supreme powerhouse. Suddenly, the space next to us cracked open like glass. A figure draped in golden light stepped out, radiating an aura so massive I felt like I should drop to my knees and worship him. The elder immediately bowed low. "Greetings, Holy Master," he said. This was the leader of the entire Chaos Holy Land. I started to bow too, but the Holy Master stopped me. "Xiao Yun, there is no need for you to bow," he said calmly. "As our son of God, your status is equal to mine." My jaw nearly hit the floor. Equal to the Holy Master? I went from a regular guy to a king in the blink of an eye. It was a lot to take in. The Holy Master smiled at me, then turned to the elder. "I'll be taking the Son of God now. The ancestors and the old fossils are waiting to see if they can take him as a disciple." "Safe travels, Holy Master." "Safe travels, Son of God," the elder shouted, bowing again. The Holy Master waved his hand, and a path of golden light stretched out from his feet, deep into the heart of the sect. He gestured for me to follow. I didn't want to be rude, so I thanked him and stepped onto the golden road. It felt like standing on a high-speed airport conveyor belt, whisking us through the air at incredible speeds. As we flew, I looked down. I saw countless immortal caves and magnificent palaces. Powerful cultivators everywhere stopped what they were doing to bow toward us. I couldn't help but feel a surge of pride. I thought I'd have to start at the bottom and work my way up, but I had skipped the line entirely. This was the life. "Son of God," the Holy Master said, breaking the silence. "We are heading to the Chaos Grand Hall. Many ancestors and old fossils, the ancient masters, are waiting there. They all want to recruit you, but the choice is yours. We won't force you." "Are they strong?" I asked curiously. "How do they compare to the Supreme Elders?" The Holy Master chuckled. He knew I was just a mortal with no real understanding of the world yet. "Supreme Elders are only in the transcendent realm. They aren't even as strong as I am. The ancestors are, at minimum, saints. As for the old fossils, they are terrifying. They are powerhouses from previous eras who reached the great saint realm. Some are even half-step great emperors." We arrived at the hall. Before we even entered, a dry, ancient voice echoed from inside. "The Holy Master is joking. We old farts are just failures who couldn't finish the path to becoming an emperor." My heart skipped a beat. Even if they called themselves failures, these were people who had actually fought for the throne of the great emperor. I followed the Holy Master inside, feeling 1,000 heavy gazes lock onto me. Even the Holy Master stood to the side respectfully. In this room, he was just a junior. I looked around at the blurry, glowing figures lining the hall. I couldn't see their faces, but I knew I had to pick the strongest one. A strong master meant better techniques and a bigger shield to hide behind when things got dangerous. While I was judging them, they were judging me. They used their sane eyes to peer through me, looking at my cells and my soul. To them, I looked completely ordinary. I didn't have a special physique or a powerful soul. I looked weaker than an outer disciple. They couldn't see my system, of course, so they were confused. They figured my talent was just so high that they couldn't perceive it, since only the legendary Chaos Physique had ever rung the bell 9 times before. Finally, one ancestor stepped forward. "My Thunder God art can summon heavenly tribulation to strike down enemies. Would you like to be my disciple?" Another one jumped in. "I am the Undying Ancestor. My Undying Demon art makes your body indestructible. I am the Blade Ancestor. My Overlord Blade is unrivaled. I am the Fist Ancestor. My Dragon Fist can tear through the void." One by one, they introduced themselves, trying to tempt me. However, the old fossils, the strongest ones, remained silent. They were cautious. Their lifespans were almost up, and they spent most of their time sleeping in coffins to stay alive. They didn't want to waste their remaining years on a student unless they were absolutely sure about his potential. They all sounded incredibly powerful. I stood there, looking at these legendary figures, wondering which one I should choose. I stood there, hesitant. These people were legends, and every single one of them was terrifyingly strong. I had no idea who to pick. The Holy Lord of the Chaos Sacred Land stood by my side, his expression calm. Suddenly, his eyes flickered with surprise. He stepped forward and addressed the crowd of powerhouses. Ancestors, elders, he announced. Grand Elder Dtion is outside requesting an audience. The hall erupted in whispers. Dtion, he's still alive? One ancestor asked. He's just a transcendent. Why is he here? Does he actually think he can take the Son of Heaven as a disciple? After a brief debate, they allowed him in. A moment later, a white-haired man walked through the doors. He looked ancient. He moved with a tremble, so frail that a light breeze might have knocked him over. I stared at him, confused. He didn't look nearly as old as the fossils sitting on the thrones, yet he looked like he was already at death's door. Dtion bowed to the ancestors and then turned to me with a faint smile. Son of Heaven, he said, his voice thin. My cultivation may be lacking, but I practice the Chaos Sutra. It is the ultimate manual of our sacred land. If you master it, you can forge the Chaos Physique, the #1 physique in all the heavens. My eyes lit up. The Chaos Physique. I didn't know much about this world yet, but I knew that name. It was invincible. If I could forge that body, I would be unstoppable. I knew my natural talent was actually mediocre. Without a powerful physique, I'd never reach the top. This was my solution. I decided right then and there. I wanted Dtion as my master. His status didn't matter. If I had the Chaos Physique, I wouldn't need to worry about anything else. Besides, as the Son of Heaven, my status was already equal to the Holy Lord. But the ancestors weren't happy. Ridiculous. Ancestor Thunder barked. Dtion, do you have any idea how hard it is to cultivate the Chaos Sutra? Since the Chaos Emperor created it, has anyone ever reached the great completion stage? If he can't master it, he can't forge the physique. You're wasting his talent. I paused. So it was hard to learn? I almost laughed. It didn't matter how hard it was. I had my system. One epiphany wasn't enough. I'd use 2, or 10, or 100. I checked my system interface. System, epiphany function, current epiphanies, 3. Task, join the Chaos Sacred Land, completed. New task refreshing soon. I grinned. I had just earned 3 more epiphanies for joining the sect. I was loaded. Dtion didn't back down. He looked at Ancestor Thunder, his voice steady. Ancestor, it is precisely because the Son of Heaven's talent is so extraordinary that he should practice it. The bell rang 9 times. Perhaps the bell was telling us that the true master of the Chaos Sutra has finally arrived. The hall fell silent. The temptation was huge. If I actually succeeded, the Chaos Sacred Land would rise to the top of the world. An emperor with the Chaos Physique would be one of the top 10 strongest beings in history. But the risk was just as big. The ancestors began to argue. I am willing to take Grand Elder Dtion as my master, I said, my voice ringing through the hall. Everyone stopped. They stared at me. Son of Heaven, Ancestor Thunder said, frowning. You are still immortal. You don't understand. We've had geniuses before. We've had disciples who rang the bell 7 or 8 times. Every single one of them failed to master the Chaos Sutra. I want to try, I replied firmly. Ancestor Undying sighed. You don't know Dtion's history. He was a genius once. He rang the bell 6 times and was the strongest seeker of his generation. But he chose the Chaos Sutra. He wasted his life on it. Now he's stuck at the transcendent realm while his peers have long since become saints. I looked at the frail old man beside me. I didn't realize he had such a tragic past. Dtion met my eyes. I failed, but that doesn't mean you will. And even though my cultivation is low, I am invincible among those at my level. If you practice this, you will be too. Invincibility at your level is a joke. Ancestor Thunder snorted. What good is it if everyone else becomes a saint while you're still a transcendent? Below the saint realm, everyone is just an ant. I nodded. He had a point, but I wasn't going to get stuck. Ancestors, I said again, my voice unwavering. I still want to try. The hall went quiet. Then, the arguing started again, louder than before. It's too risky. We can't waste a 9-bell talent. But what if he succeeds? We'd be the greatest sect in existence. The difficulty is too high. We can't gamble our future on a dream. They went back and forth, getting more heated by the second. I stood there, feeling a bit speechless. Why did nobody believe in me? They had no idea what I was truly capable of. I knew what they were thinking. My physical talent was ordinary, and to these ancient ancestors, I wasn't a safe bet. But I had a secret. I had the system. I looked at the sacred lord of the chaos sacred land. He had been watching the chaos like a spectator. Sacred lord, I said, my voice steady. I've made my decision. I want to take Grand Elder Dtion as my master. Please, grant this request. The sacred lord's brow furrowed. He looked like he wanted to say that even though he held the title of leader, he had no real power in this hall full of living fossils. No, Ancestor Thunder roared. I will never allow the Son of God to practice the Chaos Sutra. If our chosen one fails to become a saint, the entire Chaos sacred land will become a laughingstock. Ancestor Undying nodded slowly. He's right. If the Son of God cannot reach the saint realm, it would be a disgrace. I opened my mouth to argue, but a cold mechanical voice rang in my head. A new task had appeared. The system wanted me to give up my status as the Son of God. The reward was 10 epiphanies. I was speechless. I had just become the Son of God. My seat wasn't even warm yet, and the system wanted me to quit? This felt like a trap. But 10 epiphanies were too hard to pass up. Fine. The system was the boss. I looked up at the ancestors, my gaze hardening. Ancestors, I shouted. I am determined to practice the Chaos Sutra. To prove my resolve, I am willing to give up my status as the Son of God. I will be a common disciple. That way, even if I fail to forge the Chaos physique, I won't bring shame to the sect. The hall fell into a deathly silence. Dtion, the sacred lord, and even the ancestors looked at me in total shock. Do you know what you're saying? Ancestor Thunder barked. The position of Son of God represents our strongest heritage. You would be the priority for every resource we have. You're throwing that away. Ancestor Undying stepped forward. Think carefully, boy. Without that title, you'll just be a regular disciple of an elder. Your treatment will be nothing compared to what you have now. Don't be impulsive. Even Dtion looked conflicted. He wanted a student, but he didn't want me to pay such a steep price. Only a fool would give up being the Son of God. I sighed inwardly. I didn't want to lose the perks either, but I needed those epiphanies. If I can master the Chaos Sutra, I told them firmly, I will earn the title of Son of God back soon enough. If I can't, then I never deserved it in the first place. My words hit them like a physical blow. They were stunned by my supposed boldness. To them, I looked like a man of incredible ambition and iron will. They started looking at me with genuine respect. Since he has such courage, one of the old fossils whispered, how can we stand in his way? Let it be. The opposition vanished. One by one, the ancestors sighed and disappeared, leaving only the sacred lord, Dtion, and me. The sacred lord gave me a complicated look. Xiao Yun, since this is your choice, we will respect it. From today on, you are Dtion's disciple. He turned and left. I turned to the frail old man and bowed deeply. Disciple Xiao Yun greets his master. Dtion gave me a bitter smile. I feel like I've harmed you. You gave up so much for me. Don't say that, master. I replied. It was my choice. He looked moved. Then I promise you this. In the 100 years I have left, I will give you everything. I won't hold back a single thing. I froze. Wait. Master, you only have 100 years left. Panic flared in my chest. I just joined this guy, and he's already checking out? If he died, who was going to protect me? I suddenly regretted listening to the system. Dtion sighed. The transcendent realm only gives 1,000 years of life. I'm already 900. The Chaos Sutra makes every breakthrough nearly impossible, so reaching the next stage is unlikely. I swallowed hard. This was bad. Master, how many realms are there? He waved a hand, and a white cloud formed beneath our feet. I'll tell you on the way to my cave dwelling. As we flew, he explained the path of cultivation. There were 14 realms in total: body refining, chi gathering, spirit bridge, cave heaven, spirit sacrifice, awakening, out of body, nirvana, transcendent, heaven realm, saint, great saint, quasi-emperor, and great emperor. It was a long way to the top. No wonder my master was stuck. We flew over breathtaking scenery. D Peak was a massive mountain with waterfalls and ancient trees, bathed in golden sunlight. It looked like a paradise, but as we landed, I noticed something strange. It was quiet. Too quiet. The palaces were beautiful, but they were empty. I didn't ask questions. I followed him into the largest building on the peak, the Heaven Palace. This was where my training would begin. This used to be where I lived, Dtion said, leading me into the grand hall. Now it belongs to you. I hesitated, looking around at the luxury. Master, I shouldn't. This is too much. He chuckled, waving a hand dismissively. I don't live here anymore. I spend my days by the river, meditating on the great Tao. This place has been empty for a long time. It's perfect for you. Since he insisted, I didn't push back. Just then, an old man with hair as white as snow approached us. He bowed deeply, his movements full of practiced grace. Greetings, master. Greetings, young master. Dtion pointed to him. This is my follower. You can call him Uncle Fu. He'll show you around D Peak. Tonight, when the astral energy is strongest, I will officially teach you the Chaos Sutra and help you begin your cultivation. Yes, master, I replied, watching Dtion walk away. I turned to the old man. Uncle Fu, I said, giving him a respectful bow. He practically jumped back, a bitter smile on his face. Young master, please, don't do that. You'll shorten my life with such kindness. I felt a bit awkward. Back on Earth, I was a polite guy who respected my elders. This man looked old enough to be my ancestor, so bowing felt natural. But in this world, hierarchy was everything. I'd have to get used to it. All right, Uncle Fu, I said. Could you show me around? I need to know where everything is. I didn't want to get lost, especially if I needed to find a bathroom in the middle of the night. This place was too beautiful to go ruining the landscape. Of course, young master. It is my honor, Uncle Fu said, his eyes shining with genuine happiness. He looked at me like I was a miracle. It made sense. His master hadn't taken a disciple in centuries, and now he had the Son of God as a student. As we walked, I noticed row after row of empty palaces. Uncle Fu, why are there so many buildings if no one lives here? He sighed, his voice heavy with nostalgia. Years ago, the master was the strongest holy son of the chaos sacred land. He had countless followers. Naturally, we needed space for them all. But as the years passed, they either died of old age or left him. Now, I'm the only one left. It hit me then. Dtion was 900 years old. If his followers didn't break through to higher realms, they would have simply withered away. Despite the emptiness, the mountain wasn't dead. I saw celestial birds and spirit beasts roaming the slopes, and fields of golden grain swaying in the breeze. Young master, you haven't reached the stage where you can survive without food yet, Uncle Fu explained. These beasts and the spirit rice will be your meals from now on. My mouth watered. These were rare treasures that people in the outside world would kill for. Even though the beasts looked peaceful, I could feel their power. Uncle Fu told me that even one of these birds could probably take down 100 versions of the current me. Joining the Chaos Sacred Land was definitely the right move. By evening, we returned to the Heaven Palace. I found Dtion standing over a massive bronze cauldron, 3 times the height of a man. He was fueling it with a vibrant, mystical fire. A fragrance so rich and refreshing hit my nose that I felt instantly energized. Disciple, Dtion said, smiling as I walked in. I'm preparing a foundation establishment liquid for you. It's made from treasures I've gathered over centuries, including the blood of a flood dragon. It will give you a body stronger than any ordinary cultivator. Uncle Fu stepped up to help. Young master, the first realm is body refining. A strong foundation is everything. Without a powerful physical vessel, you won't survive the journey ahead. I nodded, understanding the logic. You can't build a skyscraper on a swamp. You, take over the refinement, Dtion commanded, handing the task to Uncle Fu. He then led me to a meditation mat and sat across from me. Outside, the sun had set. The sky was a velvet blanket of stars, and I could feel a strange energy, astral power, descending upon the peak. Dtion's face turned serious. I am going to teach you the Chaos Sutra now, but first, you must swear an oath. Without the sect master's permission, you will never reveal this technique to anyone. I didn't hesitate. I made the vow, my voice steady. Good, Dtion whispered. He reached out and pressed a finger against my forehead. Clear your mind. Feel the words. I closed my eyes. I knew how difficult this manual was supposed to be, so I didn't take any chances. I immediately triggered my system's epiphany function. Suddenly, the universe seemed to open up. Words flooded my mind. The universe has its laws, hard to see or hear. All things are one with me. The text of the Chaos Sutra, which had baffled geniuses for ages, became crystal clear. In this state of epiphany, every difficult concept felt like basic math. My mind was on fire with inspiration. Beside me, Tian was watching with a smile. Uncle Fu, however, looked nervous as he tended the cauldron. "Don't worry," Tian whispered to the old servant. "With his talent, he should be able to master the first layer within 3 days." "Master," Uncle Fu murmured. "It took you 7 days to master the first layer, and that was the record. If he can't beat your time, he might never surpass you." Tian looked confident. "He'll do it in 3. But then, the air in the room shifted. The spiritual energy of the entire mountain suddenly turned into a raging torrent. It roared toward me like a flooding river. Within seconds, I was encased in a glowing cocoon of light. My body lifted off the ground, hovering in midair, radiating a blinding white aura. How is this possible? Tian's eyes nearly popped out of his head. He stared at me, his face a mask of pure shock. Beside him, Uncle Fu gasped, his breath hitching in his throat. "Spirit infusion," Uncle Fu stammered, his voice trembling with disbelief. "The young master. He's already mastered the first layer of the Chaos Sutra. Heavens, how long has it been? Barely 15 minutes. Even for a natural-born genius, this was unheard of." Tian's eyes glowed as he watched me hover in the air. To him, I wasn't just a student anymore. I was a priceless treasure. I didn't hear them. I was deep inside my own mind, riding the wave of the epiphany. Was the Chaos Sutra difficult? Absolutely. But with the system's help, the first layer clicked into place like a missing puzzle piece. Rich spiritual energy surged from every direction, pouring into my body. I felt my skin start to glow, my muscles hardening, my very essence becoming something more than human. "In just a few moments, he's mastered the first layer," Tian muttered, his voice thick with emotion. "I was right. Xiaozhan is the perfect candidate. He will forge the chaos physique. I know it." Uncle Fu looked on with teary eyes. "The chaos physique, the invincible body. If I can live to see the day he achieves it, I can die with no regrets." Tian nodded solemnly. This had been his life's dream, a goal he had failed to reach. Now, he was pinning every scrap of that hope on me. But inside the epiphany, I was realizing the true scale of the task. The state of enlightenment was powerful, but it was fleeting. This manual is insane, I thought. I had mastered the chaos initiation technique with a single epiphany, but the Chaos Sutra was different. It took one entire epiphany just to clear the first layer. And there were 108 layers in total. To truly forge the chaos physique, I had to master every single one of them. It was no wonder nobody had succeeded in ages. This wasn't just difficult, it was borderline impossible. But I have the system, I reminded myself. Asterisk, if one epiphany isn't enough, I'll use 100. If 100 isn't enough, I'll use 1,000. Asterisk. I checked my stock. I had earned 3 epiphanies for joining the sect, and another 10 for giving up my status as a son of God. After using 1, I still had 12 left. Let's keep going, I decided. I need to be strong. I triggered the second epiphany immediately, diving straight into the second layer of the Chaos Sutra. Outside, the world was going crazy. The spiritual energy around the mountain didn't dissipate, it intensified. A massive whirlpool of power formed above the peak. Even the stars in the midday sky began to pulse, sending down beams of pure astral light that pierced through the roof of the hall. Uncle Fu was shaking now. What is happening? Is he trying to master the second layer right now? Tian was speechless. It took me a full year to master the second layer, he whispered. Suddenly, the ground groaned. The entire mountain began to shake violently, rocks tumbling down the slopes. An attack, Uncle Fu cried out, bracing himself. But it wasn't an attack. Golden lotus flowers began to sprout from the floorboards, blooming with a blinding radiance. Petals made of pure energy swirled around me in a rhythmic dance. Above us, the sky seemed to rupture as a literal flood of spiritual energy poured down like a broken dam, drenching me in power. Thick pillars of starlight slammed down from the heavens, locking onto my body. Tian and Uncle Fu stood frozen, bathed in the golden light. Golden lotuses from the earth, Uncle Fu whispered. Starlight tempering, Tian added, his voice cracking. They looked at each other, their faces pale. These weren't just random signs. These specific phenomena only appeared when someone mastered the 9th layer of the Chaos Sutra. My God, Uncle Fu cursed, losing his professional composure. What kind of monster did we pick up? Tian couldn't take his eyes off me. It took me 30 years to reach the 9th layer. 30 years, and I was considered a record breaker. The gap was humiliating. I had done in minutes what had taken the greatest genius of the previous generation 3 decades. Master, Uncle Fu said, his voice filled with a new kind of fire. You bet on the right person. We might actually see a Chaos Emperor rise in our lifetime. Tian clenched his fists, his excitement boiling over. If this boy doesn't achieve the Chaos physique, then the heavens have no justice. Our sect is finally going to return to its glory. Outside the mountain, the commotion hadn't gone unnoticed. The disciples and elders of the Chaos Sacred Land looked toward the peak in confusion. Because of Tian's protective arrays, they couldn't see exactly what was happening, but they could see the golden lotuses and the pillars of starlight. What's going on at Tian's place? Someone asked. Isn't that where the new kid went? The one who gave up his Son of God title. Yeah, what a fool. He traded a guaranteed future for a dead-end master. He's probably just a regular disciple now. The news of me giving up my status had spread like wildfire. Most people were laughing at me, feeling a twisted sense of satisfaction that a peerless genius had fallen so far. High on another peak, the sect master watched the glowing mountain and sighed. Tian, I didn't think you'd go this far. You're burning your own life force and cultivation just to give that boy a strong foundation? Is it worth it? You'll never reach the heaven realm now. He, like everyone else, assumed these miracles were Tian's doing. They couldn't conceive that a mortal like me could trigger such heavenly phenomena. What a waste of effort, the other elders muttered, shaking their heads. The Chaos Sutra is a dead end. Tian is just wasting his final years on a dream that will never come true. They watched the golden light, pitying a man they thought was failing, completely unaware that inside that hall, a god was being born. The stars faded from the night sky, replaced by the pale gray of dawn. A whole night had passed in the blink of an eye. I remained suspended in midair, floating above the peak of Tian's mountain. A brilliant golden light shrouded my body, making me look like a statue cast in pure bronze. Tian stared at me, his face a mask of pure shock. Golden light from the flesh. He's reached the extreme realm of body refining. Old Kai, who was still busy tending to the giant bronze cauldron nearby, froze. You mean, the young master has already forged a supreme foundation? He doesn't need the foundation fluid anymore. Tian nodded, his voice filled with wonder. 9 layers in a single day. What kind of god-tier talent is this? The baptism of worldly spiritual energy and the power of the stars has pushed his body to the absolute limit. He doesn't need artificial help anymore. Old Kai looked at his bronze cauldron and sighed, looking completely deflated. So I spent the whole night working for nothing? I wasted all that time fueling the samadhi true fire for a potion he won't even touch. Tian laughed softly. How can man-made fluid compare to a foundation forged by the heavens? Xiaoyun's future is now beyond imagination. Old Kai looked at the finished foundation fluid with a bitter smile. Master, you spent 100 years gathering these rare treasures. They are priceless. Are we really just going to let them go to waste? It's useless to keep them, Tian said casually. Then, his eyes brightened with an idea. Why don't you take it? Your lifespan is running low, too. Why not find a disciple of your own? They could be a companion for Xiaoyun. Old Kai was moved. Like Tian, he was reaching the end of his years. Every cultivator fears dying without passing on their legacy. He didn't want to see such a perfect medicinal brew go to waste. Fine, Old Kai said after a moment of thought. The Chaos Sacred Land is currently recruiting new disciples. I'll head down and pick one out. He climbed onto a cloud and drifted away from the mountain. Just then, I opened my eyes. I saw his retreating back and turned to my master. Master, where is Old Kai going? Ditian looked at me, beaming with pride. Disciple, you mastered 9 layers of the Chaos Sutra in one day. You reached the extreme realm using the power of the universe itself. You don't need the foundation fluid, so old Kai is going to find a disciple to give it to. He wants someone to inherit his life's work. I nodded, finally understanding. I looked down at my hands, feeling a strange, surging energy beneath my skin. Had I really reached the limit of body refining already? Master told me that reaching the limit meant possessing 100,000 pounds of raw strength. I felt like a superhero. My body was overflowing with power I didn't know how to use yet. Disciple, Ditian continued. Now that you've hit the extreme realm, the next step is to comprehend the 10th layer. That's when you start actively absorbing spiritual energy to enter the chi-gathering realm. I smiled confidently. Don't worry, Master. Give me 3 days, and I'll have the 10th layer mastered. I still had 4 epiphanies left in my system. Honestly, I could probably push all the way to the 13th layer if I wanted to. Ditian looked at me, speechless. It had taken him 50 years to reach the 10th layer, and here I was promising to do it in 3 days. After seeing me breeze through 9 layers in a night, he couldn't even call me arrogant. He just shook his head. No, Ditian said, his expression turning serious. You misunderstood me. I want you to suppress your cultivation. Do not rush into the 10th layer. I frowned. Why? Shouldn't a cultivator always push forward as fast as possible? Ditian gave a wry smile. That's what we tell people with mediocre talent, so they'll work harder. But you are different. You're so fast that you risk outrunning your own foundation. You need to suppress your power until every single realm you occupy reaches its theoretical maximum. I realized he was talking about building a base so solid it could never be shaken. I understand, Master. I'll hold off on the breakthrough. Ditian let out a breath, clearly amazed by my casual confidence. While you suppress your level, you should focus on combat techniques. You need to dig deeper into your physical potential to surpass the extreme realm and enter the forbidden domain. I blinked. The forbidden domain? You mean 100,000 pounds isn't the actual limit? 100,000 pounds is the theoretical limit for a genius, Ditian explained. But there are monsters with special constitutions who can push past that. 11,000, 12,000, even higher. That is the forbidden domain. I was hooked. In all of history, what is the absolute highest anyone has ever reached? Ditian smiled. We call it the 9 bands. Every band doubles the limit. Our founder, the great Chaos Emperor, reached a staggering 1 million pounds of strength during his body refining stage. That is the God band domain. A level only a god can step into. I felt a bit deflated. Here I was thinking I was hot stuff, and I'd only finished 1/10 of what was possible. I was miles away from the peak. Most people would be happy with 80,000 pounds before moving on to the next realm. Even geniuses stopped at 100,000 because they didn't want to waste time on the very first stage of cultivation. But I wasn't most people. I looked at Ditian with absolute determination. Master, if the founder could do it with the chaos physique, then I can do it too. Ditian beamed. He liked my ambition. He didn't truly believe I could reach the Emperor's level, but he was sure I could break the limit. To gain more strength now, meditation isn't enough, Ditian said. You've hit the physical ceiling for a normal human. To break through, you must practice combat arts. Right now, you have the strength of a titan, but you don't know how to wield it. Only through combat arts can you transform raw power into true combat strength, Ditian explained. I looked at him, my heart racing with excitement. Master, please teach me. What combat arts should I learn? Ditian shook his head and laughed. You can't just pick one at random. Combat arts must be tailored to your specific talent and constitution. In our chaos sacred land, we have the Star Pavilion. It houses every technique we own. Once you enter, the pavilion itself will sense your potential and choose the perfect art for you. That sounds incredible, I said, genuinely impressed. Let's go then. Take me there now. Ditian smiled warmly at my enthusiasm. Patience, my disciple. You only started your cultivation journey yesterday. There is no need to rush. Besides, Fu is returning soon. His new disciple needs to choose a technique as well. You two can go together. I took a deep breath and calmed myself. He was right. I spent the next hour focusing inward, trying to get a handle on my new body. My strength had exploded so suddenly that I felt slightly disconnected from my own limbs. If I were back in the mortal world, I probably would have crushed the floor just by standing up. Luckily, the palace floors were protected by powerful formations that could withstand my weight. A whistling sound cut through the air. Fu was back, descending on a swirling cloud. Trailing behind him was a young girl, maybe 15 or 16 years old. She wore a green dress and had her hair tied in two adorable braids. She looked energetic and full of life. "Young master, congratulations." Fu beamed as he landed. "I heard you've already built a peerless foundation." The girl behind him peeked out, her large, dark eyes filled with curiosity. She had seen me yesterday at the ceremony when I rang the bell. Back then, I was the center of the universe, and she clearly hadn't forgotten. "No need for formalities, Fu," I said, then looked at the girl. "Is this your new disciple?" Fu smiled and pulled her forward. "Lin Xiaoya, come greet your senior brother." She blinked her big eyes at me and gave a cheeky grin. "Greetings, senior brother. Is it true? Did you really give up your status as the son of God?" Fu's face went pale. "Silence. Do not speak of such things." Lin Xiaoya winced, her lower lip trembling as tears pooled in her eyes. She looked like a kicked puppy. I chuckled and waved it off. "It's fine, Fu. I chose to step down myself. Why should I be angry when people talk about it? Besides, I'll take that title back with my own hands soon enough." Fu then led the girl to pay her respects to Tian. My master studied her for a moment and nodded. "Good talent. You made the bell ring 3 times yesterday, didn't you?" The girl nodded shyly. Tian turned to Fu. "With her talent and the foundation liquid I've prepared over the years, she should have no problem reaching the body refining limit. This girl is quite lucky." Fu laughed, but Lin Xiaoya looked confused. Was her future success due to luck rather than her own skill? But since the young master already reached the limit on his own, he doesn't need it. "It's all yours now. This is a massive opportunity." Lin Xiaoya's jaw dropped. She turned to me, her eyes wide with disbelief. "Senior brother is already at the limit? But we just joined the sect yesterday. How did he cultivate so fast?" Fu puffed out his chest with pride. "Your senior brother has peerless talent. He practiced the Chaos Sutra and broke through 9 layers in a single day. The power of heaven and earth forged his foundation directly. It's far superior to using any liquid." 9 layers in one day. Lin Xiaoya gasped. Coming from a cultivation family, she knew exactly how difficult the Chaos Sutra was. To her, I wasn't just a genius, I was a monster. "Fu, you flatter me," I said modestly. "The young master is waiting to go to the Star Pavilion. Don't keep him." He waved his hand, and Lin Xiaoya floated into the air before slowly sinking into the bubbling liquid. I watched with curiosity. Since I had skipped this step, I wanted to see what it was like. The second she touched the water, she screamed. It's hot. Master, I'm being boiled alive. Are you trying to eat me?" Fu's face darkened. "If you can't handle a little pain, you'll never reach the great Tao. Stop complaining and absorb the medicine. This liquid is priceless. If you waste even a drop, your entire family couldn't afford to pay it back." "But it's really hot," she wailed. I watched her struggle for the next 6 hours, feeling a wave of relief. Thank God for my system's epiphany function. If I had to endure that kind of torture, I would have lost my mind. By noon, Fu finally pulled her out. He dried her clothes with a flick of his wrist. Despite screaming all morning, she looked more energetic than ever. She hopped around, checking her own arms and legs with excitement. "I feel so strong," she cheered. "I think I've reached the great success stage. I must have 50,000 pounds of strength now." Fu snorted. "Don't get cocky. Your senior brother didn't need any medicine, and he has 100,000 pounds of strength. You're nowhere near his level." Lin Xiaoya pouted at me. "Senior brother is a freak of nature. I can't compare myself to him." I felt a bit awkward being called a freak, but I didn't mind. "All right, Fu," Tian said, smiling at our banter. "Take them to the Star Pavilion." Fu nodded and summoned a cloud. He ushered us onto it, and we rose into the sky, leaving the mountain peak behind. The Star Pavilion was located in the outer sect area, quite a distance from our home in the inner sect. Even flying, it would take an hour. But as we soared over the mist-covered peaks and lush valleys of the Chaos Sacred Land, I didn't mind the wait. The view was breathtaking. "Wow, it's beautiful," Lin Xiaoya whispered, her eyes sparkling. When I learn how to fly, I'm going to explore every inch of this place. Lin Xiaoya chattered away beside me like a happy songbird. Her energy was infectious, but I was focused on the horizon. Old Fu smiled at her enthusiasm. He told her that once she stepped into the third realm of cultivation, the Spirit Bridge realm, she could condense her divine sense and fly on a sword. As he spoke, we entered the outer sect area. There weren't many high-level experts here. Most disciples couldn't ride clouds like Old Fu. Instead, they zipped through the air on flying swords, leaving trails of light behind them. I watched them soar, hands behind their backs, looking incredibly cool and free. I felt a surge of longing. Flying like that looked amazing. Suddenly, the mist ahead cleared. A massive plaza appeared, dominated by a towering building that reached into the clouds. It glowed with a faint, mystical light. It was grand and imposing. Old Fu laughed and told us this was the Star Pavilion. We landed on the plaza, which was packed with thousands of people. Everyone was lining up to get inside. Old Fu frowned, explaining that it was usually quiet, but since so many new disciples had joined yesterday, everyone was rushing to pick out their battle techniques. I told him I wasn't in a hurry and didn't mind waiting. But then, a loud commotion broke out nearby. 50,000 pounds of strength. The great success stage of body refining, someone shouted in awe. He just joined yesterday, and he's already reached this level? This kid could be a future quasi-sun. Lin Xiaoya's eyes lit up. She loved a good spectacle. She pulled on my sleeve and begged us to go see. Apparently, there was a strength-testing stone tablet in front of the pavilion. Old Fu chuckled. He said the tablet was for new disciples to test themselves, but since I was already so strong, I didn't need to bother. Lin Xiaoya pouted, saying that even if I didn't need to test, she did. She dragged me toward the crowd before Old Fu could stop her. We reached a massive stone tablet covered in flowing light and ancient runes. It stood there like a silent, prehistoric beast. A young man stood in front of it, chest puffed out with pride. The number on the tablet read 51,000. The crowd was showering him with praise, which only made him look more arrogant. Lin Xiaoya rolled her eyes and muttered that 50,000 pounds wasn't a big deal. A middle-aged man nearby overheard her and told her not to talk big. He said 50,000 pounds was the peak of body refining and only true geniuses could hit that right after foundation building. Others joined in, mocking her for being an ignorant little girl. Lin Xiaoya's face turned bright red. She bared her teeth at them, looking more cute than threatening. The arrogant boy at the tablet noticed the noise. He sneered at her, recognizing her from the ceremony. He reminded her that she only rang the bell 3 times while he rang it 4. He called her talent inferior and her words delusional. Lin Xiaoya wasn't the type to take an insult lying down. She marched up to him and snapped that she'd show him what real strength looked like. The boy stepped aside with a mockingly polite gesture, clearly expecting her to fail. She growled at him to keep his eyes open. She walked to the tablet, wound up her small fist, and slammed it into the stone. The crowd watched, and suddenly, the tablet erupted in a soft glow. People gasped. That glow only appeared if the force exceeded 50,000 pounds. The arrogant boy looked like he'd seen a ghost. He couldn't understand how someone who rang the bell only 3 times could be this strong already. When the glow faded, the numbers appeared, 58,000. She had beaten him by 7,000 pounds. The crowd immediately flipped, showering her with compliments. The boy didn't say a word. He just slunk into the crowd and disappeared, too embarrassed to show his face. Lin Xiaoya came back to us, beaming with pride. She asked Old Fu if she'd made him proud. Old Fu, however, put on a stern face. He scolded her for showing off and told her that when we got back, she had to write the word steady 10,000 times as punishment. Her smile vanished instantly. But then, the crowd noticed me standing next to her. Whispers broke out immediately. Is that the son? One person asked. What son? That's Xiao Zhan. He gave up his title, another replied. The comments turned nasty fast. People started saying I looked ordinary and that the Holy Lord probably realized I was a fraud. Some even suggested I had cheated during the bell-ringing ceremony and was kicked out of the sun position as a result. They doubted I even had 10,000 pounds of strength, claiming the Chaos Sutra was too hard for someone like me to learn quickly. I stayed calm, but Lin Xiaoya was furious. She stepped forward and yelled at them to shut up, defending my choice to step down. A man in the crowd laughed. He asked if I was an idiot, because no sane person would give up the benefits of being a son. He insisted I must have been caught cheating. I stared at the man coldly. He was being relentless, and the crowd around him was starting to enjoy the show. The man's mockery felt deliberate. He wasn't just some random passerby. He was targeting me. Old Fu leaned in close, his voice a low whisper in my ear. He told me the man's name was Zhu Ping. He used to be a follower of my master, Di Tian, but he had been kicked out years ago for being a dishonest snake. Since then, he had harbored a deep grudge against my master and had even joined forces with one of Di Tian's rivals. I nodded, finally understanding why this guy was so hostile. He wasn't just doubting me. He was trying to settle an old score with my teacher through me. Old Fu didn't stay silent. He stepped forward, his eyes cold as he glared at Zhu Ping. He shouted for everyone to hear, demanding to know if Zhu Ping was questioning the Holy Lord's official decree. The Holy Lord had already stated that I stepped down from being a son of my own free will. Calling me a fraud was basically calling the Holy Lord a liar. Zhu Ping snorted. He said he couldn't afford to carry such a heavy accusation, but he still didn't believe a cheater like me. He claimed that unlike me, his own young master was a true genius of the heavens. He told the crowd that his young master had rung the chaos bell 5 times and had already reached the perfection stage of the body refining realm. Zhu Ping stepped aside, and a young boy in expensive, flowing robes walked out. He looked young, but his eyes were deep and sharp, flashing like lightning. It was Chu Jingxiao. The crowd gasped. I didn't recognize him, but people were whispering that he was the only other person yesterday to ring the bell 5 times after I finished my turn. He had already been taken in by the second-ranked Grand Elder, a man who was about to reach the heaven realm. Everyone was amazed that Chu Jingxiao had reached the perfection stage in just one day. They predicted he would become a saint in no time. I watched Chu Jingxiao quietly. He was staring back at me, and I could see the flicker of jealousy and hatred in his eyes. Yesterday should have been his big moment. Rung the bell 5 times? That would usually make someone a legend. But because I had rung it 9 times, he had been completely ignored. He was living in my shadow, and he clearly hated it. Chu Jingxiao smiled at Zhu Ping, acting humble. He told the crowd that his master said my talent was extraordinary, and if I hadn't chosen the difficult Chaos Sutra, I would have reached the extreme stage by now. It sounded like a compliment, but it was a trap. He was setting expectations for me so high that any failure would look pathetic. Chu Jingxiao walked toward the strength-testing stone. He moved with the confidence of a tiger. He pulled back his fist and slammed it into the stone with a deafening boom. A blinding light erupted. It looked like a silver river pouring out of the monument. The crowd went wild. When the light faded, the number on the stone was clear, 90,000 pounds. 90,000. That was the absolute peak of the perfection stage. To reach that in a single day was unheard of. The crowd was in awe. Chu Jingxiao stood there, a smug look flashing across his face for just a second before he hid it behind a mask of modesty. He waved his hand and told everyone not to overpraise him. He said he only rung the bell 5 times, which was nothing compared to my 9. Then, he looked at me with a grin and suggested everyone watch my performance instead. He was forcing my hand. If I didn't test my strength now, I'd look like a coward. Old Fu whispered another warning. He told me that despite his age, Chu Jingxiao was incredibly calculating. He was using the crowd to pressure me. But Old Fu wasn't worried. He knew I had already reached the 10th level and the extreme stage. Chu Jingxiao and Zhu Ping thought the Chaos Sutra would slow me down. They had no idea. Go on, senior brother. Show these blind fools what you've got. Lin Xiaoya urged me. She was fuming, unable to stand these people looking down on me. I smiled and started to walk forward, but then a mechanical voice rang out in my head. New mission. Cause a sensation and make the crowd gasp in shock. Reward. 3 epiphanies. Note. This mission can be stacked indefinitely. My heart skipped a beat. I was running low on epiphanies, and the system was handing me a golden opportunity to farm more. It was basically asking me to show off as much as possible. I looked at the stone and smiled. I had to thank the system for being so considerate. The Chaos Sutra is the hardest manual in the world. Zhu Ping sneered loudly as I approached. He hasn't even had a full day. I bet he doesn't even have 10,000 pounds of strength. Chu Jingxiao chuckled. Now, Manager Zhu. Senior brother Xiao is a peerless genius. I'm sure he's mastered it already. They were playing a perfect game of good cop, bad cop, trying to humiliate me. Return valid JSON only. I ignored them and stood before the stone. I took a deep breath and threw a punch. Ow! My hand hurts. I suddenly cried out, rubbing my fist like a child who had hit a wall too hard. The crowd started to laugh. Zhu Ping and Chu Jingxiao began to smirk. But their smiles froze instantly. The stone didn't just glow. It exploded with a blinding, golden light. It was like a sun had just risen on the square, turning everything to gold. Golden light, someone screamed. Only the extreme stage produces golden light. How is this possible? He reached the extreme stage in one day. My God, is he a reincarnation of an ancient saint? The square erupted into total chaos. The golden light bathed everything, and for the first time, the crowd was truly silenced by awe. The square was a sea of shimmering gold. Everyone stared, their mouths hanging open, the silence broken only by the sound of sharp gasps. When gold light appeared on a testing stone, it meant only one thing. The practitioner had reached the extreme stage of body refining. As the light slowly faded, a number carved itself into the stone. It was a staggering 100,000 pounds. I had done it. I had reached the extreme stage in a single day. My God, someone whispered. Xiao Yin just started his foundation, and he's already at the extreme stage? What do you mean saint potential? Another added. He was supposed to be a son of heaven. He only gave up the title voluntarily. He really is the peerless genius who rang the bell 9 times. The mockery was gone. The sneers had vanished. All I saw now in the eyes of the crowd was pure, unadulterated awe. To reach the extreme stage immediately after foundation was a feat only a handful of the greatest saints in the history of the Chaos Sacred Land had ever achieved. My talent was no longer a question, it was a fact. Damn it! How is this possible? Zhu Ping muttered. He stared at the number on the stone, his face turning a sickly shade of gray. Next to him, Chu Jingxiao looked like he'd been slapped. He had been trying to humiliate me, but now, the joke was on him. I knew it. I knew senior brother was the best. Lin Xiaoya cheered, jumping for joy. She put her hands on her hips and pointed a finger at the two of them. Look at you two, looking down on people like dogs. You dared to say my brother cheated? How does that stone look now? We're leaving, Chu Jingxiao hissed. His face was bright red. He looked like he wanted to find a hole in the ground and crawl into it. He couldn't stand the judging stares of the crowd for another second. Zhu Ping followed him, scurrying away like a beaten stray. Senior brother, look at them run. Lin Xiaoyao laughed, grabbing my arm and shaking it with excitement. I just smiled. I wasn't really focused on them. I was looking at my system interface. The commotion I'd caused had triggered a reward. I had just earned 3 more epiphanies. That brought my total to 7. It still wasn't enough. The Chaos Sutra was a bottomless pit when it came to epiphanies. I needed to keep stacking them. If the system wanted me to show off to get stronger, then that's exactly what I'd do. Being low-key wasn't an option anymore. I had to stay at the center of the storm. My next goal was to break past the extreme stage and enter the forbidden realm. That would definitely make them scream. Senior brother, it's our turn. Lin Xiaoya's voice pulled me back to reality. Let's go into the Star Pavilion and pick our combat techniques. I looked up, and we had reached the front of the line. The Star Pavilion was massive, its doors wide enough for a dozen people to enter at once. We stepped inside, and I felt my breath catch. The interior was a pocket dimension. It looked like the edge of the universe. Above us, a sea of stars swirled in a dark void. Massive pillars stretched up into the infinite sky. Occasionally, a star would fall from the ceiling and land in a disciple's hand, transforming into an ancient manual. Close your eyes and steady your minds. A booming voice echoed through the hall. Wait for the Star Pavilion to choose a technique for you. I closed my eyes. I didn't realize that my performance at the testing stone had already drawn the attention of the sect's heavyweights. Even my master, Grand Elder Di Tian, was watching from the shadows of the upper void. Up there, several Grand Elders were gathered. One of them smiled at Di Tian. With Xiao Yun's talent, the pavilion will surely grant him a top-tier technique. I expect so. Tian replied with a proud smile. After 9 rings of the bell, the pavilion should recognize him as the highest rank. Humph! A cold snort vibrated through the air. A misty, blurred figure sat cross-legged in the void, radiating a terrifying pressure. Tian glanced at him. Tiani, I thought you were in seclusion trying to reach the heaven realm. Did you fail again? The misty figure erupted with power. The surrounding elders gasped. Half-step heaven realm. Tian is almost there. Tian sneered. Tian, you might be strong in battle, but you'll never reach the heaven realm. In 100 years, you'll be nothing but a pile of yellow dust. Your disciple is the same. No matter how bright he shines now, he's just a falling star. My disciple, Chu Jingxiao, will follow my path. He will reach the heaven realm, and maybe even the saint stage. Tian's face darkened. You've always been my loser, Tian, and your disciple will be my disciple's loser. A temporary setback for me is nothing. I will break through, while you fade into history. The other elders tried to calm them down, but then something happened in the hall below. A single, dim star detached itself from the ceiling. It drifted down slowly, looking weak and flickering, and landed right in my hand. The elders watching from above froze. Their eyes widened in disbelief. A third-rate technique, one elder stammered. The atmosphere turned icy. The genius who rang the bell 9 times, the boy who reached the extreme stage in a day, had been given the lowest, most pathetic grade of technique the pavilion offered. How? Tian whispered, his face pale. Is the star pavilion broken? Tian Yi's cold laughter echoed through the void. It seems my disciple was right. Perhaps he did cheat to ring that bell. The star pavilion sees the truth. His real talent is nothing. It's just an ordinary technique. Tian snorted, his voice cold and sharp. Tiani, do you really think the chaos bell is a toy? It's a great earth divine weapon. Even a saint can't deceive it. Unless Xiao Zhan has a quasi-emperor backing him, there's no way he could trick the bell. Tian just smirked, looking like he was enjoying my misfortune. Who knows? We can all see clearly now. Xiao Zhan's talent is mediocre. The ancestors and the old fossils thought so, and now the Star Pavilion agrees. Maybe he has some weird, specific trait that triggered the bell, but it definitely wasn't his raw talent. The other Grand Elders and leaders started nodding along. To them, this made more sense. The bell couldn't be fooled, but maybe I had used some external trick or a hidden treasure to make it ring. Impossible, Tian roared. You're talking nonsense. My disciple is a once-in-a-generation genius. Last night, he understood the Chaos Sutra, rang the bell 9 times, and reached the 9th layer of the body refining stage in a single day. He triggered a spiritual energy surge and stepped directly into the extreme stage. He has an invincible foundation. How could he be ordinary? The hall went silent. The 9th layer in one day, someone gasped. That's the Chaos Sutra. It's the hardest manual in existence. The elders were losing their minds, and even Tian looked shaken for a split second. Then, he let out a mocking laugh. Tian, that's just your side of the story. Who's to say you didn't exhaust your own cultivation to force him through those 9 layers? If I remember correctly, it took you 30 years to reach the 9th layer back in the day, and that broke every record we had. One day? Don't make me laugh. The elders looked at Tian with renewed suspicion. 30 years was a miracle. One day was a fairy tale. It was too hard to believe. Tian was actually just as shocked as they were. If he hadn't seen it with his own eyes, he wouldn't have believed it either. But he wouldn't let them insult me. He stepped forward and shouted, I, Tian, swear upon the great Tao that I am telling the truth. The air grew heavy. Swearing on the Tao wasn't a joke. If you lied, your cultivation would hit a permanent wall. Could I really have reached the extreme stage in one day? Tian, he didn't back down. He just sneered. Tian, you only have 100 years of life left. You're never hitting the heaven realm anyway. Even if you violate a Tao oath, it doesn't really matter for someone who's already dying. The suspicion returned to the elders' faces. Tian's face turned red with rage. Fine. If you won't believe me, I won't waste my breath. My disciple will prove himself. He already has, Tiani mocked, pointing down at the hall. A third-rate technique. That's the lowest of the low. In the eyes of the Star Pavilion, His talent is bottom tier. He's just a commoner. Tion's face went pale. He had no comeback. The Star Pavilion had made its judgment, and he was just as confused as everyone else. Down in the hall, I was staring at the manual in my hand, completely stunned. It was called Mountain Splitting Punch. Beside it was the mark of a third-rate technique. Third-rate, I muttered. Is this place blind? I felt a surge of irritation. Before coming here, Tion told me there were 6 grades: third-rate, second-rate, first-rate, top-tier, super, and ultimate. Third-rate was for the people with the most pathetic, average talent. I looked over at Lin Xiaoya. Her hands were glowing with a bright light as a weathered book appeared. It was the 1,000 Shadow Whip, a first-rate technique. My eye twitched. My junior sister got a first-rate technique, and I got the trash? This was embarrassing. Senior brother, what did you get? Lin Xiaoya asked, opening her eyes. She looked excited. It must be a super-grade technique, right? When she saw the mountain-splitting punch in my hand, she let out a yelp. How is that possible? Third-rate. This has to be a mistake. What? Xiaozhan got a third-rate technique. The surrounding disciples crowded around, their eyes wide. The Star Pavilion must be broken. With his talent, he should have gotten a super grade. What's going on? Suddenly, a notification pinged in my head. Asterisk ding. Host has caused a sensation. Reward. 3 epiphany opportunities. Asterisk. I winced. The reward felt like a slap in the face right now. But when I checked my system, I saw I had 13 epiphanies total. I only had 7 before entering. So with these 3, I should have had 10. Then it hit me. The elders watching from above must have been freaking out earlier, and the system counted them too. I stood there in the center of the pavilion, holding that pathetic manual, feeling the weight of everyone's judgmental stares. It pissed me off. Senior brother, don't be mad, Lin Xiaoya whispered, trying to comfort me. Maybe the pavilion just made a mistake. The Star Pavilion has existed for ages, someone nearby laughed. It doesn't make mistakes. Lin Xiaoya snapped back at them. My brother reached the extreme stage in a day. You think he's untalented? The guy shut up. That was the mystery. How could someone so strong be rated so low? I sighed to myself. I knew the truth. The bell, the extreme stage, it was all the system. My actual, raw talent was, well, let's just say the Star Pavilion wasn't wrong. But I didn't care. I had the system. Who cares about natural talent when I can trigger an epiphany whenever I want? I shook off the frustration and looked up at the ceiling of the pavilion. I was done being judged. Listen up, Star Pavilion. I shouted, my voice echoing through the hall. My talent isn't for you to decide. My fate belongs to me, not the heavens. I decide what my grade is. Now give me your strongest techniques, and let me choose for myself. Lin Xiaoya stared at me, her face flushing a light pink, her eyes sparkling like stars as she watched me defy the very foundation of our sect. Lin Xiaoya's eyes sparkled with admiration. To her, I looked like a hero defying the heavens. High above the Star Pavilion, the supreme elders and ordinary elders watched the scene unfold, some of them chuckling to themselves. They thought I was just being stubborn. In their eyes, it was natural for a kid who reached the extreme stage in a day to have an ego, even if his tested talent was trash. They wondered how the guardian of the pavilion, the great elder Xing Chun, would respond to my arrogance. Suddenly, the starlight inside the pavilion intensified. Dozens of the brightest stars began to fall from the ceiling, streaking toward me like meteors. They slowed down and hovered right in front of my face. It seemed Elder Xing Chun had decided to let me have my way. The other disciples in the hall gasped, their eyes widening in shock. As the starlight faded, dozens of ancient, weathered manuals appeared. I scanned the titles. 9 Revolutions Tyrant Fist, Taiji Divine Palm, 6 God Scattering Hand, 9 Heavens Divine Might, 8 Trigrams Heaven Palm, Divine Wind Step, 10,000 Blades Merging Sea, 1 Sword Severs the World, and the Heaven-Slaying Sword Drawing Technique. Every single one was a super-grade technique. The crowd went wild with envy, their eyes burning with greed. But most of them knew better than to actually try and learn these. The higher the grade, the harder the cultivation. Most people didn't want to waste years in the body-refining realm. Even if you became invincible at this level, a master of the Godbridge realm could still kill you, in a second. Only true geniuses, the ones with speed to spare, spent time digging into their potential like this to build a supreme foundation. I looked at the floating books and frowned. Why are there only super-grade techniques here? I called out. Don't you have any ultimate-grade ones? The hall went silent. People looked at me like I had lost my mind. Super-grade wasn't enough? I wanted ultimate. Even the pavilion itself seemed stunned, falling into a long silence. Up in the sky, the elders were shaking their heads and laughing. One of them nudged my master. Tion, you're failing as a teacher. The kid doesn't even know what an ultimate technique is. Tion's face turned bright red. He quickly sent his voice down to me. Disciple, listen. Ultimate grade isn't a category you find on a shelf. It's a technique created by a cultivator for themselves. These super grade manuals in front of you were ultimate grade for the masters who wrote them. In your hands, they are only super grade. If you want an ultimate technique, you have to take these foundations and evolve them into something of your own. I looked up, startled. Master, you're here? Just pick a technique, Tion urged. Don't be greedy. Pick one and move on. Don't waste your life in the body refining realm. I didn't like that advice at all. I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to show this pavilion and everyone watching exactly what my talent looked like. I reached out and grabbed 6 manuals at once. The Tyrant Fist, Taiji Palm, Scattering Hand, Divine Wind Step, 10,000 Blades, and the Sword Drawing Technique. The disciples around me stared like I was a suicide victim. Learning 6 supergrade techniques? That would take a normal person centuries. It was the move of an absolute idiot. High above, the elders were mocking Tion. Elder Tion laughed in his face. Forget his talent, Tion. Your disciple's brain is full of water. Even a holy son would need 100 years to master all of those. Tion looked like he wanted to crawl into a hole. But I didn't care what they thought. I looked at the crowd and sneered inwardly. I wasn't an idiot. I was a businessman. I checked my system interface. My epiphany count had jumped to 19. I had just gained 6 more charges because of the shock I caused by demanding the manuals and then taking 6 at once. This was the easiest way to farm points. Now, I just needed to give them something else to scream about. I had an idea. I pulled out the 9 Revolutions Tyrant Fist and flipped it open. The book dissolved into streaks of golden light, pouring into my mind. The cultivation formula etched itself into my brain. System, use 1 epiphany, I whispered in my head. I closed my eyes. The people around me and the elders above watched with growing confusion. Was I really trying to cultivate right here, right now? It was a joke. These techniques were notoriously difficult. Most people thought I was just putting on a show, trying to look cool when I couldn't possibly achieve anything in a few minutes. Only Tion stayed silent, his eyes fixed on me. He had seen me master 9 levels of the Chaos Sutra in a single day. To him, this wasn't a joke, it was a countdown. Inside my mind, the world changed. The confusing, cryptic words of the Tyrant Fist suddenly became as simple as a child's coloring book. My thoughts moved like lightning. My body resonated with the great Tao. I understood everything. I snapped my eyes open. 2 streaks of golden light shot from my pupils. Deep within my dark irises, it looked like galaxies were spinning. I moved. He's actually trying it, someone shouted. That's impossible. The elders leaned in, waiting for me to fail. But then, I threw a punch. The air didn't just move, it exploded. A terrifying surge of power tore through the space in front of me, creating a piercing whistle that echoed like a bomb going off. A golden brilliance suddenly erupted from my body, wrapping me in a shimmering cocoon of light. My aura surged, heavy and suffocating. It was the golden light body refinement, the unmistakable sign of mastering the first revolution of the 9 Revolutions Tyrant Fist. The crowd gasped. How is this possible? How long has it been? I ignored them. In the outside world, even the most talented holy sons needed a full year of grueling practice to reach this stage. I had done it in minutes. The elders in the sky were speechless, their faces frozen in shock. One of them stammered about how he finally believed Tion's claims. If I could do this, maybe I really had mastered 9 levels of the Chaos Sutra in a single day. Tion stood off to the side, stroking his beard with a smug, proud grin. Meanwhile, Ancestor Tian Yi's face turned sour. I could see the regret in his eyes. He was probably wishing he had been the one to snatch me up at the Chaos Bell. But I wasn't finished. I was still in the epiphany state, and cultivation felt as natural as breathing. I pushed further. My mind raced, and I triggered the second revolution. Boom. I threw another punch. It sounded like a clap of thunder. The space in front of me trembled, and the air detonated in a series of sharp explosions. The spectators jumped back, their eyes wide with terror. Time seemed to blur. 1 revolution, 2, 5. Soon, I reached the 9th. I was at the peak of the technique. I pulled back my fist, and endless golden light gathered in my palm until it shone like a miniature sun. This time, it was different. Heat radiated from my skin. Divine flames erupted around me, and glowing golden symbols swirled in the air like falling stars before slamming into my chest. He's reached the circle of completion, an elder screamed from above. The 9th revolution. This was the legendary 9 revolutions body refinement. At this stage, a cultivator's body is reforged like tempered steel. I had already reached the limit of the body refining realm, but now, I was breaking through the ceiling. I was stepping into the forbidden domain, a level of power that shouldn't exist for someone at my stage. The elders were buzzing now. They talked about the upcoming True Dragon Nest opening, whispering that the Chaos Sacred Land finally had a disciple strong enough to reclaim our lost glory. I felt like an eternal furnace. Every pore in my body opened, and every drop of my blood transformed into golden symbols that sang with divine power. My bones glowed with a pure white light, and my flesh turned a deep, translucent gold. Golden flesh and jade bones. An elder whispered, his voice trembling. He's actually done it. I slowly pulled back my fist, ending the form. Inside me, it sounded like a god was striking a drum against my ribs. A final explosion of light filled the star pavilion, so bright that everyone had to shield their eyes. When the light faded, I stood there, breathing steadily. I looked the same, but everything had changed. My gaze was sharper, more aggressive. My body was perfectly sculpted, radiating a natural, overbearing pressure. "Senior brother, you look even more handsome," Lin Xiaoyao whispered, looking at me like a starstruck fan. I gave her a small smile, but my focus was internal. I felt like a dormant volcano had just woken up inside my gut. I needed to know exactly how strong I had become. As I turned to leave the pavilion, I looked up at the simulated starry sky above. "Next time I come here," I said loudly, "don't make me choose. Just give me the strongest technique you have." The crowd stared at me like I was insane. I was literally threatening a sentient trial building. But then, the stars shifted. They formed a single, massive word in the sky. Okay. I nodded, satisfied. I had just banked 3 more epiphany credits from the system for that little display. I started walking toward the exit, making sure to speak loud enough for everyone to hear. "I think I've entered the forbidden domain. Better go test it on the stone tablet." That was all it took. The entire crowd surged out of the building behind me, desperate to see the show. Word spread like wildfire through the plaza, and soon, thousands of disciples were surrounding the testing area, forming a massive human ring around the power testing stone. I stood before the massive slab of rock. My eyes flashed with golden light. I wound up, channeling the full power of the 9 revolutions tyrant fist. As I swung, 9 phantom fists appeared around my arm, merging into my knuckles at the moment of impact. A blinding explosion of golden light erupted from the impact. A deafening roar filled the air, and the ground beneath my feet shuddered as if an earthquake had struck. My power felt like a volcanic eruption, the air around my fist cracking and popping with the force of the blow. The stone tablet didn't just glow, it ignited. It released a golden brilliance so intense it looked like a burning sun, lighting up the night sky and making the stars above look dim. Everyone held their breath. They knew I had hit the 10,000-pound mark, but the real question was by how much. Crossing that threshold meant entering the forbidden domain. The crowd stared, eyes wide. High above in the starry sky pavilion, the grand elders and high-ranking officials leaned forward, their gazes locked on the slab of rock. Then, the numbers finally flickered into existence. 200,000. The silence lasted for a heartbeat before the plaza exploded in shouts. 200,000 pounds of force. It was staggering. I had officially stepped into the first stage of the Forbidden Domain, a feat usually reserved for the holy sons of the sect. People were murmuring that I already had the qualifications to be a holy son. They remembered I was technically a godchild who had given up his title, but seeing this, they started whispering that I'd probably take that throne back sooner or later. I looked at the numbers and felt a surge of satisfaction. My strength had doubled. If one super combat technique got me here, I wondered if learning a second one would add another 100,000 pounds. But I decided to hold back. If I showed off too much, people would start seeing me as a freak of nature. I didn't want some powerful elder getting curious enough to slice me open for research. I had plenty of epiphany credits banked anyway. There was no need to rush the performance. I checked my system interface. Epiphany system. Function, grants the host epiphanies. Remaining credits, 24. Current tasks, 1. New task refreshing soon. 2. Unlimited task, cause a sensation and make people gasp in shock. Reward, 3 epiphany credits. I almost laughed. This thing should just be called the show-off system. Disciple, it's time to go, a voice called out. Tian descended from the sky, landing beside me. He gathered me, Lin Xiaoyao, and Uncle Fu, and we headed back to D Peak. Even though we left, my name was already spreading like a wildfire through the chaos sacred land. Nobody questioned my talent anymore. People stopped calling me an idiot for giving up the godchild status. Now, they called it boldness and unshakable will. Back at the Heavenly Palace on D Peak, Uncle Fu was roasting a massive spirit beast over an open flame. The golden fat sizzled, sending an incredible aroma through the air. My mouth watered, and so did Lin Xiaoya's. Since we hadn't reached the stage of fasting yet, we still needed to eat, and I was starving. I felt like I could eat an entire cow. Master, I asked, looking at Tian. Why is it that as my strength grows, my appetite gets even bigger? Tian chuckled. Increased strength means a stronger physical body. You need more nutrients to maintain it. You have the power of 200,000 pounds now. That's equivalent to 20 elephants. Naturally, you need to eat as much as 20 elephants. I stared at him, my face falling. So I'm basically a human trash compactor now? Being able to eat is a good thing, Tian said casually. It means your body is getting tougher. Uncle Fu smiled as he flipped the meat. Don't worry, young master. You don't have to eat mountains of grass. These spirit beasts are packed with energy. One beast a day should be enough to keep you full. I looked at the spirit beast, which was the size of a small hill, and sighed. Master, when can I stop eating? What realm do I need to reach to fast? The 4th realm, Tian explained. The cave heaven realm. Once you open your inner caves, you'll absorb worldly spiritual energy every second. That will nourish your body, and you won't need food anymore. I felt a bit relieved. The 4th realm didn't seem that far off. With 24 epiphany credits, I could probably break through to the 3rd realm, the divine bridge realm, right now if I wanted to. But I had a different goal. I wanted to be like the original Chaos Emperor. I wanted to reach the absolute limit of 1,000,000 pounds of strength in the body refining realm. Master, if one super combat technique gave me an extra 100,000 pounds, does that mean if I learn 8 more, I'll hit the 1,000,000-pound limit? Lin Xiaoya stared at me, her eyes sparkling with hero worship. She clearly thought I was a genius for even dreaming of mastering 9 super techniques. Tian and Uncle Fu just looked at me with blank expressions. They had seen me master a technique in seconds back at the pavilion, so they couldn't even tell me it was too hard with a straight face. They just shared a bitter smile. Disciple, Tian sighed, shaking his head. You can't reach 1,000,000 pounds just by stacking super techniques. A body can only undergo 3 transformations through them. That means you can only gain another 200,000 pounds that way. After that, no matter how many techniques you learn, your strength won't budge. I frowned. Then how do I keep going? First, you master 3 super techniques to gain 300,000 pounds, Tian explained. Then, you must evolve those 3 techniques into ultimate combat techniques. That will grant you another 300,000 pounds. I did the math in my head. Master, that only gets me to 700,000. Where does the last 300,000 come from? Tion stayed silent for a moment, then let out a long sigh. 700,000 is the absolute limit for a mortal body. Even the Chaos Emperor only reached that level through training. The final 300,000 pounds, he got that from his chaos physique. I froze. I didn't have a special physique. I was just a regular guy. If you can reach 700,000 pounds, that's more than enough, Tion said, trying to be encouraging. Don't get hung up on the million-pound mark. In the entire cultivation world, almost no one even dreams of that. Even among the monsters born with special physiques, reaching 500,000 pounds of strength in the body refining realm was rare. Those who hit 700,000 were practically non-existent. Tion was right to warn me. Not everyone had my system. Not everyone could trigger an epiphany at will. Other geniuses had to spend years, maybe even decades, just to master a single super combat technique. Most of them only managed to learn one. Even those born with legendary bodies that rivaled the chaos physique, like the desolate ancient holy body or the heaven tyrant physique, could only reach 500,000 or 600,000 pounds after adding the power of a single technique. But 700,000 wasn't enough for me. I wanted more. I looked up at Tion, my eyes burning with resolve. Master, is there really no other way to keep pushing my strength? Tion went silent. He knew I was a perfectionist. He knew I wouldn't settle for anything less than the absolute limit, and trying to talk me out of it was useless. He thought for a long moment before sighing. There is a way, he said slowly. The difference between a mortal body and a special physique is the innate foundation. If you can supplement that foundation, a mortal body can catch up to the legends. How do I do that? I asked immediately. It's not easy, Tion admitted. You need incredibly rare treasures from heaven and earth. If you were still the son of heaven, our chaos sacred land would have spared no expense to get them for you. But now, he looked down, his face clouded with guilt. It's my fault. I'm not strong enough. If I had the power of a saint, I could break into the forbidden zones and snatch those treasures for you. Master, don't say that, I said firmly. You've already given me everything by taking me in and teaching me the way. Tion still looked dejected, but old Kai, who had been standing quietly nearby, suddenly spoke up. Master, doesn't the true dragon nest open in a year? Maybe the young master could try his luck there. Tion's eyes snapped wide. Of course, I almost forgot about the true dragon nest. He turned back to me, his excitement returning. We haven't sent anyone there in years because no one in our sect was strong enough to enter the forbidden realm at the body refining stage. Sending them would have been a death sentence. But you're different. He grabbed my shoulders. Disciple, if you can reach 700,000 pounds within a year, you'll be one of the top powerhouses inside that nest. You won't need the sect's help. You can seize those treasures yourself. What exactly is this true dragon nest? I asked, confused. It's a secret realm, Tion explained with a smile. It opens once every century, and only those in the body refining realm can enter. Because of that restriction, the treasures inside haven't been picked clean by the powerful experts of the world. It's your best shot at fixing your foundation. He handed me a weathered book titled Records of the True Dragon Nest. I flipped it open and started reading. The history was fascinating. Legend said a true dragon once lived there before ascending to a higher plane. Before leaving, it sealed the area, allowing only low-level cultivators to enter. For ages, powerful experts tried to break the seal to uncover its secrets, but they failed. However, one secret had been leaked, the dragon-raising plan. The true dragon had left behind 10 dragon seeds. Every 100 years, they would revive. These creatures were powerful, but to truly evolve into true dragons, they needed to fight. They needed to bathe in blood and push their limits through slaughter. The true dragon had created the seal to protect them from high-level cultivators who would just enslave them. By letting in only body-refining cultivators, the dragon seeds were forced to fight geniuses on equal footing. It was a brutal survival of the fittest. The cultivation world didn't mind being used as whetstones. Every century, the great sects sent their best disciples in for 3 reasons. First, the rare treasures inside could help their geniuses evolve. Second, bathing in the blood of a dragon seed could push a human past their physical limits. And third, If a disciple was lucky enough to capture a dragon seed and form a contract, they would have a peerless protector for life. The next opening was exactly 1 year away. I closed the book, my heart racing. Master, I've decided. I'm going. Tion nodded slowly. It's dangerous. You need at least 500,000 pounds of strength just to be safe. If you don't reach that, I won't let you go. Don't worry, I said, a smirk playing on my lips. I'll hit 700,000 before the gates even open. Tion laughed. Then I won't stop you. Focus on your training. If you have questions, ask me or old Kai. I nodded and went back to devouring my spiritual beast meat, feeling more motivated than ever. Beside me, Lin Xiaoya looked up at old Kai with puppy dog eyes. Master, can I go to the true dragon nest too? No, old Kai said, shaking his head without a second thought. With your strength, you'd be dead in days. You think the only danger in there is the dragon seeds. The real monsters are the other people fighting over the treasures. The practitioners from the various sects were just as dangerous as the monsters. They would kill each other without hesitation. Old Kai looked at Lin Xiaoya with a stern expression. With her current strength, she wasn't even qualified to step foot in the true dragon nest. Tion nodded in agreement. Every time the nest opened, countless geniuses flooded in. Those at the body refining limit were everywhere. There were even plenty of monsters who had stepped into the forbidden realm. To them, an ordinary cultivator was just cannonball fodder. Lin Xiaoya turned her eyes toward me, looking like a kicked puppy. She grabbed my arm and pouted. But senior brother is going. He'll protect me, right? I was about to nod when old Kai's voice cut through the air like a whip. Shut up. The young master is going there to surpass his limits. If you follow him, you'll only be a burden. You'll put his life in danger. Lin Xiaoya bit her lip and looked down, but I couldn't help but smile. Old Kai, it's fine. If we're only dealing with people in the body refining realm, I'm confident I can keep her safe. Old Kai shook his head firmly. Bringing a tag-along is too risky. I'm not a tag-along, Lin Xiaoya whispered under her breath. Old Kai glared at her, and she immediately went silent. I looked at old Kai and Tion. Do you really have so little faith in me? Master said even the strongest special physiques only have 400,000 pounds of strength at the limit. Even with 2 super combat techniques, they'd only hit 600,000. I'm already at 700,000. I can protect myself and her. Old Kai hesitated. He knew that if Lin Xiaoya followed me, she'd likely stumble upon some treasures. It might be enough to push her to the body refining limit. But Tion had invested everything in me. He didn't want even a 1% chance of me getting hurt. Tion finally spoke up, a small smile on his face. Tell you what, if Xiaoyun really reaches 700,000 pounds of strength before the gates open, Xiaoya can go. Lin Xiaoya jumped for joy. Yes. Thank you, Grand Elder. Don't celebrate yet, old Kai barked. If you're going, I'm going to spend the next year tempering you. I won't let you be a drag on the young master. Lin Xiaoya's face instantly fell. She knew exactly how miserable the next year was going to be. Looking at her terrified expression, Tion and I burst out laughing. Meanwhile, over at Tianyi Peak, the atmosphere was much colder. Grand Elder Tianyi was standing over a glowing cauldron. The scent of medicinal herbs filled the hall as he finished refining 3 golden pills. His disciples, Chu Jingxiao and Zhu Ping, stood by with bowed heads. Tianyi handed the pills to Chu Jingxiao. These are spirit god pills. They will help you reach the body refining limit in a month and the forbidden realm within a year. Chu Jingxiao knelt, his forehead touching the cold floor. Thank you, master. I will find a saint medicine in the true dragon nest to help you become a saint. Tianyi nodded, looking like a proud mentor. He told Chu Jingxiao to go rest while he prepared armor and a saber for him. Chu Jingxiao left, feeling overwhelmed by his master's kindness. But as soon as the doors closed, the smile vanished from Tianyi's face. Zhu Ping stepped forward, looking worried. Master, the young master's talent is limited. Even in the forbidden realm, he might not survive the nest. If he dies, he dies, Tianyi said coldly. I can always find another disciple. But if he brings back a saint medicine, the payoff is worth 1,000,000 times more than those cheap pills I gave him. To Tianyi, disciples were just chess pieces. Only his own strength mattered. He looked toward my master's peak and sneered. He thought Di Tian was an idiot for wasting his final 100 years of life on a student. To him, fame and legacy meant nothing if you were dead in the dirt. 3 days later, back at my peak, I was relaxing by a spirit lake. I had a fishing rod in my hand and my eyes half closed, enjoying the peace. "Senior brother, save me." A blood-curdling scream echoed across the water. I glanced over and winced. Old Kai was currently whipping Lin Xiaoya. Each strike left a bloody welt on her skin. It looked brutal, but I knew it wasn't punishment. Old Kai was using a special technique to help her absorb the high-level pills she'd swallowed. If she tried to refine them herself, it would take years. This was the fast track, even if it was painful. I turned back to the lake, a cold sweat breaking out on my brow. I definitely didn't want Di Tian to start helping me like that. I needed to get stronger on my own. I closed my eyes and triggered a state of epiphany. My mind cleared instantly. I began focusing on my second super combat technique, the Taiji Divine Palm. In the state of epiphany, the complexities of the move unraveled before me. I stood up, my arms moving in fluid, circular motions. The spiritual energy around the lake began to swirl. 2 fish made of black and white light formed from the air, circling my body. A massive Taiji diagram manifested under my feet, the aura so powerful it stopped Old Kai mid-swing. Even Lin Xiaoya forgot her pain, staring at me in total awe. Lin Xiaoya watched me, her eyes wide with curiosity. She turned to Old Kai and asked what I was doing. Old Kai's pupils shrank, his face a mask of pure shock. He told her I was practicing my second super combat technique, the Taiji Divine Palm. He pointed at the massive diagram swirling beneath my feet. To reach that level of manifestation meant I had already mastered the technique to its absolute limit. Hearing that, Lin Xiaoya looked like she wanted to ram her head into the ground. She was over there getting whipped and suffering just to reach the basic limits of body refinement. Meanwhile, I was casually mastering super techniques and adding another 100,000 pounds of strength to my strikes. It was enough to make anyone die of envy. Old Kai just looked at her and reminded her that this was the gap between a mortal and a genius. If she wanted to keep up with my footsteps, she had to keep suffering. Then, he raised his whip again. A moment later, her blood-curdling screams filled the air again. It was painful to listen to. I ignored the noise, slowly finishing my forms and returning to my chair to fish. With the second technique mastered, I estimated my strength was around 300,000 pounds. I needed to find a time to go back to the testing stone. If I caused a big enough scene, the system would reward me with 3 more epiphany opportunities. Having a system really made life easy. "Save me. Senior brother, I don't want to go to the true dragon nest anymore." "Master, stop." Lin Xiaoya's cries grew more pitiful in the distance. I just shook my head. That was the price of not having a system. A month passed in the blink of an eye. One morning, Lin Xiaoya came running toward me, looking ecstatic. She had finally refined all the medicinal energy from the pills and reached the body refinement extremity. She begged me to go to the Star Pavilion to test her strength. Since I was already planning to go there and show off, I nodded and followed her, with Old Kai leading the way. When we arrived at the Star Pavilion, a massive crowd was already gathered around the stone tablet. Gasps of shock echoed through the air. It looked like another genius was putting on a show. Lin Xiaoya was itching for a fight. After a month of torture, she wanted to prove herself. Old Kai didn't stop her. He knew she needed to vent. As we pushed through the crowd, I saw a familiar face standing by the tablet. It was Chu Jingxiao, the disciple of Elder Tianyi. He looked incredibly smug. The number 100,000 was glowing on the stone, proving he had reached the body refinement extremity. His lackey, Zhu Ping, was laughing loudly, calling his master a heaven-sent genius and claiming he'd be a holy son in no time. The crowd was eating it up, showering Chu Jingxiao with praise. His smile was huge until he saw me. The crowd realized I had arrived and immediately parted to make a path. Lin Xiaoya looked at the number on the stone and snorted. She told the crowd that reaching the extremity was nothing to brag about, especially since her senior brother had reached the first forbidden realm a month ago. Chu Jingxiao's face turned black. He gritted his teeth, unable to argue. Even though reaching the extremity in a month was legendary in the Chaos Sacred Land, he was doomed to live in my shadow. Zhu Ping stepped forward, glaring at Lin Xiaoya. He mocked her, asking what my strength had to do with her. He sneered, asking if she even had 60,000 pounds of power, and told old Kai to take his embarrassing student home. Old Kai just crossed his arms, looking at Zhu Ping with pure pity. Lin Xiaoya didn't back down. She walked straight to the stone and threw a punch with everything she had. The tablet exploded with golden light. The numbers flickered and settled, 100,000. The crowd went wild. Two people reaching the extremity in one day? They started shouting that the chaos sacred land was finally rising again. Lin Xiaoya smirked at Chu Jingxiao, enjoying his stunned expression. Then, she turned to me and shouted that it was my turn. Every eye turned to me. They were desperate to see how much I had grown in a month. I walked up to the stone, gave it a casual smile, and threw a punch. 30,000. No, 300,000. As the blinding golden light faded, the number 300,000 sat there, vibrating with power. The silence was deafening before the cheers erupted. I had stepped into the second forbidden realm. People were calling me an unparalleled monster, the man who would lead the sect back to the top of the 6 sacred lands. Chu Jingxiao was completely forgotten. In this world, people only remember the first place. Second place is just a footnote. He grabbed Zhu Ping and slunk away into the shadows, unable to bear the humiliation. Meanwhile, far away in the primordial sacred land, a magnificent palace pierced the clouds. Inside, shrouded in mist, were the powerful elders and the holy lord of the primordial sect. An elder stepped forward to report. He told the holy lord that news had come from the chaos sacred land. The chaos bell had rung 9 times. The holy lord sat on his golden throne, his voice deep and thoughtful. He noted that it was the time for the chaos sacred land's recruitment. To make the bell ring 9 times meant a terrifying genius had appeared, someone the world hadn't seen in ages. A super genius had arrived, and the future was about to change. The elders inside the primordial sacred land were buzzing with unease. They whispered that a talent who could ring the bell 9 times would eventually become their greatest enemy. We had to be on guard. The Holy Lord sat in silence for a moment before his voice boomed through the hall. He decided to send a scouting party under the guise of a friendly exchange. They would claim they heard about our new geniuses and wanted to spar. It was a classic move to test the waters and see just how extraordinary this newcomer really was. Back at the Chaos Sacred Land, life on the peak continued. Lin Xiaoya was busy being tormented by Uncle Fu's strict training, so I turned my focus back to my own cultivation. I knew I needed more super combat techniques to increase my physical strength, but I didn't want to waste my epiphany points blindly. I only wanted the best. I felt a bit stuck, so I went to find my master, Dtion. He looked at what I had already mastered, the 9 transmutations Tyrant Fist and the Taiji Divine Palm. He stroked his chin thoughtfully. He told me that my fist technique was pure offense while the palm was pure defense. I was missing one crucial element, speed. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. He was right. With power and defense already in my pocket, adding speed would make me unstoppable. I immediately decided on my third technique, the Spirit Wind Step. At the Grandmaster level, it was said to make a person move so fast it looked like teleportation. But Dtion wasn't finished. He reminded me that while bare fists are strong, they can't always compete with the cold edge of a weapon. He suggested I pick up an armed combat style. I agreed and settled on 2 more, the Spirit Wind Step for movement and the 10,000 blades returning to the sea for offense. Dtion smiled and waved his hand. A simple, ancient black saber appeared in the air before me. It was about 1 meter long, wide, and heavy, covered in mysterious glowing runes. It looked incredible, but when I looked closer, I noticed the edge was completely blunt. It wasn't sharp at all. I looked at my master, confused. I asked him how I was supposed to kill anyone with a dull blade. He laughed and asked me if my fists were sharp. He told me that at my level of strength, the edge didn't matter. The weight and the power behind the swing were what killed. I reached out to grab the hilt, expecting to lift it easily. After all, I had the strength of 300,000 pounds. But as I pulled, my brow furrowed. The saber didn't budge. I looked at Dtion in shock. He told me the blade was forged from 1,000-year-old profound iron. It weighed exactly 360,000 pounds. It was the weapon he had used back when he was in the Chi Gathering and Spirit Bridge realms. My heart raced. A weapon that heavy could crush a body refining expert in a single swing, but I wasn't strong enough to wield it yet. Master told me I'd need at least 700,000 pounds of raw strength just to swing it comfortably. I returned to my palace with a new goal. I checked my system and saw I had 26 epiphany opportunities left. I had earned 3 more just by showing off at the Star Pavilion earlier. I didn't hesitate. I triggered an epiphany and dove into the Spirit Wind step. Within minutes, the hall was filled with my afterimages. I had reached the Grandmaster level instantly. Next, I spent another epiphany point on the 10,000 blades technique. I used my hand as a substitute for the saber, slashing through the air. Countless blade shadows converged into one massive, terrifying strike that shattered a stone pillar in the hall. Another Grandmaster level reached in a single day. I had 24 epiphanies left. I thought about heading back to the Star Pavilion to break another record and earn more points, but I decided to wait. If I showed too much progress in 24 hours, people might try to cut me open to see how I worked. I decided to lie low for a month. Exactly 1 month later, 3 uninvited guests arrived at the gates of the Chaos Sacred Land. There was an old man with white hair and a youthful face, a young girl in a red dress, and a boy in a white robe. The old man stepped forward, his voice echoing across the mountains. He announced himself as one Yanghui from the primordial sacred land. He claimed he was there on his lord's orders to pay a visit. The sky above the gate cracked open. A figure as imposing as a god stepped out of the void to meet them. It was Great Elder Tian Yi. He was the second-ranked elder in our sect, a half-step heaven realm expert. Our holy lord had sent him because he sensed that one Yanghui was a true heaven realm powerhouse. Sending anyone of lower status would have brought shame to the Chaos Sacred Land. The tension in the air was thick. The games were finally beginning. Wan Yanghui looked at Great Elder Tian Yi and smiled. He complimented Tian Yi on reaching the half-step heaven realm, claiming he would soon break through completely. He called him the pride of the Chaos Sacred Land. Tian Yi gave a small, humble smile, but he knew the game. He replied that he was still far behind Wan Yanghui. That's when the girl in the red dress behind Wan Yanghui started whispering. She grumbled that a second-ranked Great Elder was only at the half-step heaven realm. She claimed that in her sect, the primordial sacred land, he wouldn't even crack the top 10. She said our sect had truly fallen. Her voice was low, but in a room full of masters, everyone heard it. Tian Yi's face went pitch black. His expression soured instantly. Wan Yanghui put on a show of scolding her, telling her to shut up. Then he turned to Tian Yi with a fake, apologetic look. He asked Tian Yi not to mind her, saying she was just a child who didn't know better. Tian Yi played it cool and told him it was fine, but I could tell he was fuming. He probably wanted to go into seclusion right then and there and not come out until he reached the heaven realm. He went quiet and led them toward the main hall to meet our holy lord. Inside the hall, the atmosphere was already tense. Our holy lord and several other great elders were waiting. They had been debating why the primordial sacred land would suddenly send people. Most of them guessed it was about the upcoming true dragon nest. They figured it was a trap or a way to embarrass us. In the past, we didn't have any disciples strong enough to enter the true dragon nest. But this year we had me. Word had spread that I'd reached the forbidden realm with 300,000 pounds of strength at the Star Pavilion. Some elders thought I was ready. Others weren't so sure. They worried that even with my strength, the top geniuses from other sects would target me and crush me. The Holy Lord silenced them. "They're here," he said. Tian Yi led the guests in. Wan Yanghui bowed to our Holy Lord and wished him a speedy ascent to the saint position. It sounded like a compliment, but it was a slap in the face. Everyone knew the holy lords of the other 5 sacred lands were already saints. Ours was the only one still stuck in the heaven realm. The elders were furious, but they had to hold it back. If they got angry over a compliment, they'd look petty. Our holy lord kept his composure. He smiled and asked Wan Yanghui why he had come. Wan Yanghui got straight to the point. He was there to officially invite us to the true dragon nest next year. The elders sneered internally. They had called it. But Wan Yanghui wasn't done. He said he had brought 2 juniors to exchange pointers with our disciples so they could see the world. Our leaders looked at the boy and girl behind him. Their faces darkened. With their experience, they could see these two weren't ordinary. They realized we might not have anyone who could actually beat them. The Holy Lord thought for a moment. Then he gave the order. Bring Xiao Yun, Chu Jingxiao, and Lin Xiaoya here. The elders nodded. These three were our best in the body refining realm. Even if we didn't win everything, having me there meant we wouldn't lose too badly. We had to save some face. Back at our quarters, my master Di Tian, Fubo, and Lin Xiaoya were watching a messenger elder leave. I asked my master why this other sect was so obsessed with exchanging pointers. Fubo snorted in anger before Di Tian could speak. He told me that every time the true dragon nest opened, they came to mock us. They acted like they were inviting us, but they were really just showing off that we had no talented disciples left. Di Tian looked me in the eye. He warned me that the 6 sacred lands weren't friends. They were rivals, and the primordial sacred land was our biggest enemy. He told me to be extremely careful if I ever met them outside. I nodded. I realized then that this wasn't just a friendly visit. It was a declaration of war. Fubo escorted Lin Xiaoya and me to the main hall. Di Tian watched us go with a cold smirk. He whispered to himself that this time, the chaos sacred land wouldn't be the ones humiliated. He was counting on me to crush their geniuses. We entered the grand hall and greeted the Holy Lord and the elders. Then we turned to face the 3 guests. The Holy Lord introduced us as the best of our body refining realm. Wan Yangwei scanned us. He barely glanced at Chu Jingxiao or Lin Xiaoya. To him, they were just average. But when his eyes landed on me, he paused. He saw my golden bones. He knew I had stepped into the forbidden realm. Still, he looked confident. He smiled and called us exceptional talents. Then he gestured for his disciples to step forward. The boy in the white robe, Zhao Yulong, and the girl, Li Miaodong, moved toward us. The air in the room grew heavy. The challenge was finally on the table. The boy in the white robe stepped forward first. His voice was calm, but his eyes were sharp. He told us his name was Zhao Yulong, and he was ranked 9th in the body refining realm back at the primordial sacred land. Beside him, the girl in the red dress didn't even try to hide her contempt. She looked at the 3 of us like we were dirt beneath her boots. She introduced herself as Li Miaodong and bragged that she was only ranked 10th. The Holy Lord and the elders turned grim. It wasn't because of the kids' bad attitudes. They were centuries old and didn't care about a teenager's ego. What bothered them was the math. These 2 powerhouses were only 9th and 10th in their sect. Meanwhile, the 3 of us were the absolute best the chaos sacred land had to offer. The gap between our sects was staring us right in the face, and it was humiliating. I watched them quietly, but Lin Xiaoya couldn't hold back. She snapped at Li Miaodong, mocking her for being so proud of a 10th place ranking. Li Miaodong just smirked. She told Xiaoya that even though she was 10th at home, she was good enough to be number 1 here. That was the breaking point. Xiaoya shouted that she'd see if Li Miaodong's skills matched her big mouth. Li Miaodong just tilted her head back, exposing her throat in a gesture of pure arrogance, and beckoned Xiaoya forward with a finger. Xiaoya lunged. She swung a fiery red whip, the air whistling as it cut through the space between them. I shook my head. My junior sister was too green. She'd let a few insults get under her skin and cloud her judgment. I didn't stop her, though. Sometimes you have to lose to learn, and I knew she'd be safe here in the main hall. I focused on the fight, wanting to see what these primordial disciples were really made of. Xiaoya's whip turned into a dense, glowing net. It was a top-tier battle technique she'd already mastered to perfection. The elders nodded in approval. For someone who'd only been a disciple for a few months, she was impressive. But Li Miaodong was on another level. She drew a sword and moved through the gaps in the whip net like a fish in water. Her sword chi flickered, slowly shredding Xiaoya's defense. One sword, worlds apart. Li Miaodong barked. She moved like a bolt of lightning. Before Xiaoya could react, the tip of a cold blade was pressed firmly against her throat. Xiaoya froze. Her face went pale, and a bead of sweat rolled down her neck. If the sword had moved half an inch further, she'd be dead. Xiaoya gritted her teeth. She admitted she lost, but she looked back at me and told Li Miaodong that she'd never beat her senior brother. Li Miaodong just sheathed her sword and looked at me and Chu Jingxiao with total disdain. She told us to step up so she could crush us too. Senior brother, you have to teach her a lesson, Xiaoya pleaded. I stepped forward. I told Xiaoya she'd been too impatient, which was why she lost so fast. Then I looked at Li Miaodong. I told her I wouldn't even bully her. If she could make me take a single step backward, I'd count it as her win. She turned red with rage, just like Xiaoya had. She lunged at me, her sword glowing with a chilling light. I didn't even draw a weapon. I simply pushed my palm forward. A massive taiji diagram manifested in the air, swirling with ancient power. The force of my palm strike sent Li Miaodong stumbling back. Across the room, Wan Yonghui's eyes narrowed. He recognized the technique. I had reached the perfection stage of the taiji divine palm. Li Miaodong wouldn't quit. She kept attacking, but my taiji diagram was a perfect defense. She couldn't even get close to my body, let alone force me to move. Zhao Yulong tried to warn her from the sidelines. He told her she couldn't win because I had reached the forbidden realm with my technique, while hers was still just at the mastery stage. Li Miaodong screamed that she would break her limits today. She cleared her mind, focusing everything on her blade. Suddenly, a terrifying sword intent exploded from her. She reached the state of man and sword as one. She lunged again, her body glowing with golden light like a divine sword piercing the mist. The elders of my sect looked worried. She had actually broken through her limits during the fight and stepped into the forbidden realm herself. If the 10th-ranked disciple of the primordial sacred land was this talented, the future of our sect looked dark. Li Miaodong's strike hit with the force of 200,000 pounds. It was a monstrous blow. But when it slammed into my taiji diagram, it was like a wave hitting a mountain. The defense didn't even flicker. Instead, the recoil sent her flying backward through the air. Junior sister, I said calmly, you should probably sit this one out. Across the room, Xie Yulong's expression hardened. The white-robed youth watched me closely, his eyes narrowing as he realized I had likely stepped into the second stage of the forbidden realm. Li Miaodong wasn't ready to give up. She held her head high, her face flushed with a mixture of anger and stubborn pride. She glared at me, her voice sharp and biting. Is this all the chaos sacred land can do? Just hide behind a defense. If you have the guts, actually try to defeat me. Otherwise, I'll never admit defeat. I looked at her calmly. Fine, I said. The word had barely left my lips when I moved. My legs turned into streaks of lightning, leaving a trail of afterimages behind me. Before she could even blink, I was standing directly in front of her. I unleashed the 9-turn tyrant punch. The strike carried a mountainous force, an invincible momentum that seemed ready to swallow the very rivers and seas. It slammed into her with terrifying power. The impact sent Li Miaodong flying backward. She crashed onto the floor and coughed up a spray of blood, her face turning deathly pale. Junior sister, Xie Yulong cried out. He rushed to her side, helping her up and quickly checking her injuries. His face darkened as he looked back at me. This was just a spar. Don't you think you went a bit too far? I didn't flinch. When I didn't attack, you said my sect only knows how to defend. When I do attack, you say I'm too ruthless. Is this how the primordial sacred land handles things? You really have an excuse for everything, don't you? Xie Yulong opened his mouth to argue, but no words came out. He knew she had provoked me into striking. He couldn't blame me for the result of a fight she demanded. Wan Yonghui, their elder, finally spoke up to break the tension. Enough. The primordial sacred land can afford to lose. You must remember there is always a higher mountain and a wider sky. Never let your arrogance blind you again. Xie Yulong and Li Miaodong bowed their heads in shame. But a moment later, Xie Yulong looked up at me again, his voice heavy. Brother Zhao's strength is impressive. I, Xie Yulong, would like to ask for your guidance as well. I gave him a bored look. I just fought a match. I'm tired. I need to rest. Surely the primordial sacred land wouldn't resort to a despicable tactic like a relay race to wear me down. The elders in the hall looked at me with speechless expressions. Tired? I had ended that fight effortlessly. But my words worked. Xie Yulong couldn't force the issue without looking like a coward. Instead, he turned his gaze toward Chu Jingxiao, who had been standing on the sidelines trying to stay invisible. In that case, Xie Yulong said, I'll test the skills of Brother Chu first. Chu Jingxiao froze. Why me? I didn't hit your sister. He wasn't an idiot. He knew he was no match for Li Miaodong, let alone the much stronger Xie Yulong. But with all the sect leaders watching, he couldn't back down without losing all face. He'd never be able to hold his head up in the sect again. He cursed me silently. He knew I was doing this on purpose. With a look of pure resentment, he stepped forward to face Xie Yulong. I watched from the side with a grin. Lin Xiaoya leaned in and whispered in my ear, "Senior brother, you're so wicked. You're totally setting up Chu Jingxiao. Everyone knows Xie Yulong is fuming right now. He's going to take all that anger out on him. Now you see how smart your brother is," I whispered back. "I'm just using him to test Xie Yulong's true strength. Learn from this. Don't just rush into things with a hot head. Use your brain." She nodded frantically, looking at me with newfound admiration. "I see. You really are brilliant." The elders nearby sighed. With their cultivation, they could hear every word of our secret conversation. Elder Tianyi was gritting his teeth in fury, while our sect master wore a thin smile. He clearly liked that his future successor had a bit of a devious streak. In the center of the hall, Chu Jingxiao looked like he was facing a death sentence. Xie Yulong, however, looked perfectly relaxed. "You move first," Xie Yulong said coldly. "If I strike, you won't even get the chance." "Arrogant," Chu Jingxiao roared. He knew he was outmatched, but that insult sparked a fire in him. He lunged forward, unleashing his best battle technique. Xie Yulong's eyes narrowed. Suddenly, his entire body erupted with crackling, blinding electricity. He moved like a bolt of lightning, appearing instantly in front of Chu Jingxiao and sending him flying with a single punch. "The lightning physique," someone gasped. "He's a genius with a special body type." The elders of the Chaos Sacred Land looked worried. Not only did he have the lightning physique, but he had also mastered a super battle technique to the perfection stage. His strength was firmly in the second stage of the Forbidden Realm. Chu Jingxiao hit the ground hard, coughing up blood. His injuries were far worse than Li Miaodong's. He looked at Xie Yulong with a sense of utter despair. Against a special physique and perfected techniques, no amount of hard work could close the gap at this level. "Useless," Elder Tianyi muttered. His face was a mask of shame as he waved his hand, teleporting the broken Chu Jingxiao out of the hall. Outside, the sect master of the Chaos Sacred Land sighed. The rumors were true. The lightning physique grants incredible speed and destructive power. Combined with your sect's lightning punch, it is truly formidable. Wan Yanghui stroked his beard, though his humility was clearly fake. The lightning physique is merely a king body. In our primordial sacred land, it's nothing special. This generation has produced several divine bodies and even one supreme body. Compared to them, the lightning physique is quite ordinary. The atmosphere in the hall turned cold. My sect hadn't produced a single special physique in this generation, yet our rivals were acting like a king body was trash. The gap was humiliating. "A supreme body?" our sect master asked, his voice serious. "Which one has appeared in your sect?" Wan Yanghui's face glowed with pride. "The time-space body, ranked 4th on the supreme list." A collective gasp echoed through the hall. The time-space body was legendary. It allowed a cultivator to manipulate time and space itself, making every technique they used infinitely more powerful. It was a terrifying prospect. I listened to the elders chatter, feeling a surge of shock myself. I knew how the rankings worked. The third tier were king bodies, like the lightning physique or the yin-yang body. The second tier were divine bodies. But the first tier, the supreme bodies, were the stuff of legends. And I was standing in a sect that was currently empty-handed. The hierarchy of physiques was etched into my mind. Below the supreme bodies were the divine bodies, and below them, the king bodies like the lightning physique. But those top 10 supreme bodies were the stuff of legends. The 5 elements body, the heavenly demon body, they were powerful, but the first tier was a league of its own. The chaos physique sat at the very top, ranked number 1. Then came the heaven-swallowing demonic body, the innate saint body Tao embryo, and the time-space body. The list continued with the profound yellow undying body, the myriad Buddha body, the desolate ancient saint body, the heavenly tyrant body, the god king body, and the immortal king body. In truth, the gap between these 10 was razor thin. Someone with the 7th-ranked myriad Buddha body could easily take down a user of the 4th-ranked time-space body. A physique was just a foundation. True strength came from effort and opportunity. Still, anyone possessing one of these 10 could dominate an entire era. That was exactly why I had refused the position of Son of God. I wanted the chaos physique. My sect was fading, but if I could forge that legendary body and wield the chaos bell, I would be invincible. That was the hunger driving me. Senior Brother Xiao, I hope you've rested enough. Jie Yulong's voice snapped me back to reality. I looked at him and offered a small, humble smile. So, Junior Brother Jie has the lightning physique. I'm just a mortal body. I doubt I'm your match. Please, go easy on me. Jie Yulong looked annoyed. He had only called me Senior Brother, out of politeness, and here I was, acting the part. He kept his composure, though his voice cool. Senior Brother Xiao is too modest. There are plenty of stories of mortal bodies defeating special physiques. We just have a head start at birth. Real achievement depends on hard work. I couldn't agree more, I said, my smile widening. Jie Yulong's eye twitched. My tone was clearly getting under his skin. He looked like he wanted to punch the words right out of my mouth. All right, Junior Brother, I said cheerfully. Let's get this over with. I need to get back in time for dinner. That was the final straw. Jie Yulong didn't say another word. He exploded forward, his fist whistling through the air toward my face. Arcs of brilliant lightning crackled across his skin. His punch erupted with blinding sparks. He was fast, terrifyingly fast. I couldn't take this lightly. His strike didn't just carry physical weight. It had the searing, elemental damage of the lightning. I shifted into my Taiji stance, pulling up my absolute defense. I had to weather the storm. Bang, bang, bang. His fist slammed into the Taiji diagram I had projected. Each hit sounded like a clap of thunder. The lightning surged against my shield, trying to fry me where I stood. Within seconds, I saw tiny cracks spiderwebbing across my defense. He was strong. I had to give him that. I didn't wait for the shield to shatter. I activated the spirit wind steps, my body blurring into a series of afterimages as I began my counterattack. If I stayed on the defensive, he'd eventually break through. That's more like it. Jie Yulong laughed, his eyes wild with excitement. Geniuses like us should go head-to-head. 9-turn tyrant punch. I warred. The moment I unleashed the technique, the air around me shifted. My temperament transformed. I felt an overwhelming sense of dominance, like a king surveying a battlefield. I wasn't just a disciple anymore. I was a force of nature. Every time I used this skill, it filled me with an invincible aura. Even Jie Yulong flinched for a split second. I lunged forward, my movements fluid and powerful. I threw a punch, condensing layers of force into a single point. The air in front of my fist literally exploded from the pressure. Jie Yulong didn't back down. His eyes glowed with electric light. He met my strike with his own lightning punch, using his superior speed to intercept me. Boom. Our fists collided like two mountains crashing together. The shockwave rattled the entire hall. A golden light began to seep from my pores, wrapping around me like a shroud of golden flame. My physical strength was reaching its peak, twisting the very space around my knuckles. I pushed the 9-turn tyrant punch to its limit. 1 hit, 2 hits, 3. I rained blows down on him, my fists glowing with golden runes. Jie Yulong was grim now. He poured everything into his lightning physique, matching me blow for blow. Neither of us retreated. It was a brutal, bloody exchange of raw power. The elders watching were stunned. Both of us had stepped into the second forbidden realm, wielding over 300,000 pounds of force. Xiao Yun is actually gaining the upper hand, someone whispered. I could feel it too. My blood was boiling. My eyes felt like burning lamps. I let out a guttural roar, the golden light around me exploding outward like a dying sun. 9-turn tyrant punch. I threw everything into one final, world-ending strike. My fist erupted with a terrifying divine light, carrying the weight of a god. Lightning punch. Jie Yulong screamed back. His hair flew wild as he bathed himself in purple electricity. He charged forward like a demon king, his body weaving a dense web of lightning around me, desperate to trap me in his storm. The lightning physique lived up to its reputation. Thunder echoed through the hall as we clashed again, our battle reaching a fever pitch. We were digging deep now, stripping away every bit of restraint. But then, I felt it, a surge of pure, raw energy. I let out a long laugh, my eyes erupting with a brilliant, holy red light. My fists burned brighter with every swing. My strength was climbing, surpassing the limits I had shown just moments ago. Jie Yulong's expression crumbled. He felt the shift immediately. My power had suddenly jumped by another 100,000 pounds, crushing his momentum entirely. You think I'm only in the second forbidden realm? I asked, my voice cutting through the roar of the wind. My golden glow became blinding. Jie Yulong buckled under the sheer pressure, forced back step by step. Sorry to disappoint you, I shouted, my spirit soaring like a rising tide. But I stepped into the third forbidden realm a long time ago. I lunged forward, my tyrant punch glowing like a miniature sun. Crack! Jie Yulong coughed up a spray of blood. Caught in the center of my fist light, he flew backward like a kite with a snapped string. Senior brother Jie. Fu Miaodong screamed from the sidelines, her face pale with disbelief. She couldn't process that her invincible idol was actually wounded. Jie Yulong was resilient, though. He managed to steady himself midair. Using the extreme speed of his lightning physique, he turned into a blur of purple electricity, flickering through the air to strike at my exposed back. Your strength is greater, but you're too slow, he roared. Combat isn't just about raw power. Fu Miaodong's eyes lit up again, filled with desperate hope. But I was already one step ahead of her. Taiji Divine Palm, I muttered. I sensed the threat behind me and reacted instantly. A massive Taiji diagram materialized at my back, spinning with ancient grace. Jie Yulong's lightning-fast punch slammed into the center of the seal. This time, the diagram didn't budge. It was rock solid. The two yin-yang fish on the seal seemed to come to life, swirling and devouring the electric force of his strike. His attack withered into nothingness. Jie Yulong's pupils shrank. He stared, frozen in shock. I didn't give him a second to breathe. I spun around and buried a fist into his chest. This blow carried everything I had. The lightning runes covering his body shattered under the impact, and he collapsed, his fighting spirit broken. He hit the ground hard, coughing up more blood. Fu Miaodong rushed to his side, trembling as she helped him up. Wan Yonghui watched from a distance. He could tell the injuries weren't fatal, just enough to take Jie Yulong out of the fight. He narrowed his eyes at me, a look of genuine amazement crossing his face. As expected of a high disciple from the Chaos Sacred Land, Wan Yonghui sighed. To master 3 super combat techniques at such a young age, and to push the Taiji Divine Palm to the ultimate realm, you've actually reached the 4th forbidden realm. Such comprehension is truly remarkable. Jie Yulong looked like he wanted to puke more blood after hearing that. 4th forbidden realm? I had lied about being in the 3rd. I was 20,000 pounds stronger than him. There was never a fight to begin with. Up in the main hall, the leaders of the Chaos Sacred Land were beaming. Seeing me crush a genius from a rival sect had put them in a fantastic mood. Elder One, flattery is too much, the Holy Lord said, though he couldn't hide his smirk. Xiaoyan just has a bit of talent. Compared to your sect's time-space physique, there's still a huge gap. I'm sure the Taichu Sacred Land will take the top spot at the True Dragon Nest again. Please, have your disciples show us some mercy when the time comes. Wan Yonghui smiled politely. Rest assured, Holy Lord, we are all part of the 6 great sacred lands. We should stand together. The Holy Lord's eyes flickered. He didn't believe a word of it. In the past, whenever our disciples entered the True Dragon Nest, the Taichu Sacred Land was always the one hunting them down the hardest. We were mortal enemies wrapped in a thin veil of politeness. After some more empty small talk, Wan Yonghui led his defeated disciples out of the sect. Once they were gone, the Holy Lord turned to me with a warm grin. Xiaoyan, you did well today. You've brought great honor to our name. The surrounding grand elders nodded in agreement, showering me with praise. The Holy Lord is too kind, I said, bowing slightly. As a disciple of the Chaos Sacred Land, protecting our reputation is simply my duty. They loved that answer. The Holy Lord leaned forward, his expression becoming serious. Has your master, Di Tian, told you about the True Dragon Nest? He has, I replied. I plan to enter next year. The Holy Lord sighed. For years, we haven't had a genius in the body refinement realm, so we stopped participating. The world mocked us for it. Now that you have this strength, you must go. But be warned, Taichu and chaos are like fire and water. Once you enter that nest, they will not show you any mercy. I nodded, my voice filled with steady confidence. Don't worry, Holy Lord. I'll make sure to wipe out everyone from the Taichu sacred land while I'm in there. The hall went silent. The elders looked at me, completely speechless at my arrogance. That won't be necessary, the Holy Lord said with a wry smile. Your priority should be finding treasures. If they don't provoke you, don't go looking for trouble. Especially since they have a time-space physique this generation. That's one of the 10 supreme physiques. If you encounter him, don't hesitate. Just run. He looked me in the eye. You haven't forged the chaos physique yet. At the same level, you can't compete with a supreme physique. I knew he was just trying to protect me, but I didn't agree. With my system and my current strength, I felt I could take on anyone. But a good disciple doesn't talk back to the boss. I understand, Holy Lord, I said, a sharp glint in my eyes. I'll definitely kill that time-space physique and make sure the Taichu sacred land suffers a massive loss. The Holy Lord and the elders just stared at me, lost for words. I guess I wasn't just a good disciple. I was a handful. The elders looked at me like I was insane. To them, I was just a regular human with a common physique. Yet here I was, claiming I'd crush a supreme time-space physique. They didn't realize who they were dealing with. All right, just go back and focus on your cultivation, the Holy Lord said, waving his hand. He clearly couldn't talk sense into me anymore. I nodded respectfully. Don't worry, Holy Lord. I'll work hard. Next year, I'm definitely taking that time-space physique's head. I grabbed Lin Xiaoya's hand and strolled out of the main hall with my head held high. Behind me, the elders were speechless, watching my retreating back with a mix of awe and frustration. The Holy Lord sighed, shaking his head. This Chaos Sutra, it doesn't just demand talent, it messes with your personality. Back then, Di Tian was just like this after he started practicing it. Arrogant, overconfident, unstoppable. I honestly don't know if this is a good thing or a bad thing. I wouldn't worry too much, Holy Lord, one of the great elders said with a chuckle. I think Xiaozhan might actually surprise us. We all saw it. He mastered 3 super battle skills to the Great Circle stage in just a few months. He even evolved the Taiji Divine Palm into an ultimate battle skill. With comprehension like that, maybe he really can forge the Chaos physique. The Holy Lord's eyes flickered with a spark of hope. If he truly achieves the Chaos physique, our Chaos sacred land will finally rise again. Meanwhile, outside the sect gates, Wan Yonghui and his 2 disciples, Xie Yulong and Fu Miaodong, were flying away on a cloud. The 2 younger ones kept their heads down, faces flushed with shame. Elder, we failed you, Xie Yulong muttered. We disgraced the Taichu sacred land. Please, punish us. Wan Yonghui dismissed the thought with a wave of his hand. It wasn't your fault. That kid Xiaozhan has already reached the 4 boundaries realm with 500,000 pounds of strength. You weren't ready for that. Xie Yulong looked grim. He's terrifying. How can a commoner reach the 4 boundaries? He mastered 3 super skills and even evolved 1 to the ultimate level. It doesn't make sense. Wan Yonghui sneered, his eyes cold. You're still too young. You don't realize that comprehension can be faked, though it comes at a price. There's a pill called the Wisdom God Pill. Use it once per realm, and you're fine. Use it 3 times, and you ruin your future. Xiaozhan has only been at the sect for 3 months. There's no way he's that smart. He must be popping pills like candy. But why would the Chaos Sacred Land let him do that? Fu Miaodong asked, stunned. Aren't they destroying a genius? Genius? Please, Wan Yonghui laughed. I looked at him with my divine vision. He's a commoner through and through. 0 natural talent. He's just a tool. They're using pills to buff him up so he can grab treasures for them in the true dragon nest. Once he's served his purpose, they won't care if his cultivation path is ruined. He's a disposable pawn. Xie Yulong and Fu Miaodong exchanged looks of realization. It made perfect sense to them. Nobody wanted to believe a commoner could be that powerful naturally. 500,000 pounds is the limit for a commoner, Wan Yonghui continued, his voice dripping with disdain. He won't get any stronger. In our Taichu sacred land, he wouldn't even break the top 3 of the body refinement realm. When we get to the true dragon nest, we'll kill him and watch the Chaos Sacred Land's little plan crumble. Back at my own quarters, I wasn't thinking about them at all. I was checking my system. I had 23 epiphanies saved up, and after beating those 2 clowns and showing off, I'd earned 3 more. 26 total. Time to level up the rest, I thought. I had 3 other super battle skills: 9 rotation tyrant fist, swift wind step, and 10,000 blades merging. If I pushed all of them to the ultimate level, I'd gain another 200,000 pounds of strength. That would put me at 700,000. That was the absolute peak I could reach before heading to the true dragon nest. Just as I was about to start, my master, Dtion, walked in. I stood up to greet him, and we sat down together. So, Dtion asked with a smile, "What did you think of the Taichu geniuses?" "They're strong," I admitted. "Their 9th and 10th ranked disciples could wipe out almost everyone in our body refinement realm. If it weren't for me, we would have been embarrassed today." "That's to be expected," Dtion said, his expression turning serious. "I heard they even brought a lightning physique along. Even if it's just a king physique, it's leagues above a common body." I grinned. "Master, no matter how strong they are, they're still just losers who fell to my hands." Dtion looked proud, but then his face darkened. "The Holy Lord told me about the time-space physique in this generation. That is a supreme physique, Xiaozhan. When you enter the true dragon nest, you have to be careful." I patted my chest. "Master, have a little faith. Once I hit 700,000 pounds of strength, I don't care what kind of physique he has. I'll crush him." Dtion shook his head. "You're underestimating what a supreme physique can do. It's not just about raw power, it's about innate abilities. You felt the lightning physique's power, didn't you?" I nodded, my smile fading slightly. "Yeah. Xie Yulong was fast, and his strikes had that extra lightning damage. If I didn't have such a massive strength advantage, he would have been a problem." "Exactly," Dtion said, leaning in. "And that was just a lightning physique. The time-space physique is on a whole different level. They are born with control over time and space. To him, the speed of lightning is a joke. He'll be faster than you can imagine, and worse, he can slow down time around you. You'll be a sitting duck." Dtion's face was heavy with worry. I stared at him, completely stunned by his warning. My mind raced as I tried to process what he just said. Even if he has a time-space physique, I argued, he's still only in the body refinement realm. He shouldn't be able to control the laws of time and space yet, right? Those are powers for saints. I don't believe someone at our level can touch that kind of strength. Dtion let out a bitter laugh and shook his head. "It seems you still don't understand what a supreme physique truly represents, Xiaoyun. They are called supreme because they are terrifying from birth. They are born with innate abilities that defy logic. Of course, that kid from the primordial sacred land can't control massive amounts of time or space yet. But even a tiny sliver is enough to sweep away every enemy in the body refinement realm." I fell silent. My confidence wavered for the first time. There was an old saying, "Space is king, and time is emperor." A physique that combined both was practically a cheat code. It felt like an unsolvable puzzle. "Master, what should I do then?" I asked, looking up at him with a serious expression. "Is there any way to actually stand against those powers?" I knew Dtion didn't come here just to scare me. He had to have a plan. Sure enough, a small smile played on his lips. "It's difficult," he admitted. "But since he's only in the body refinement realm, his control is weak. That gives us a window of opportunity." My eyes lit up. "Please, guide me." "Time has 3 basic forms," Dtion explained. Acceleration, deceleration, and stillness. Based on my guess, he can only manage time acceleration right now, and likely only on himself. But combined with his spatial talent, his speed will be nightmare fuel. To fight him, you have to limit his movement. I nodded, following his logic. I've already mastered the swift wind steps. Even if I push that technique to its absolute limit, I'd only be as fast as that lightning physique kid. Is that not enough? Not even close, Dtion said, crushing my hope. At the same level, a time-space physique is 100 times faster than a lightning physique. My jaw dropped. 100 times? How am I supposed to fight that? That's not even moving anymore. That's basically teleporting. I won't even see his shadow. I'll just be a punching bag. That's why it's a supreme physique, Dtion sighed. Between accelerating time and folding space, their speed is unrivaled. Almost no one at the same realm can touch them. I threw my hands up in frustration. Then how do I stop him? Tion smiled. Don't be impatient. I told you I had a way. There are actually 4 ways to deal with him. First, long-range attacks. Hit him before he ever gets close. Second, defense. If your skin is tough enough to tank his hits, you can buy time to reset the distance. Third, formations. Use spirit stones to trap him or slow him down. The only downside is you have to set those up in advance. He paused, looking at my shocked face. And fourth, sonic attacks. Use sound waves to shock his mind and disrupt his flow. It weakens the enemy's spirit and naturally slows them down. If you master all of these, you can stand your ground. I gave him a wry smile. Master, that's a lot of stuff. Just tell me what I need to do. Tion laughed and tossed 6 books onto the table. I already prepared everything for you. 3 super combat techniques and 3 formations. If you have the talent to learn them all, you'll be ready. I looked down at the titles. The 3 techniques were Little Lee's Flying Dagger, Golden Bell Shield, and Dragon's Might. The formations were the Chaos Array, the Dragon Locking Array, and the 8-Gate Entrapment. I nodded to myself. With my system's epiphany function, learning these within a year wouldn't be a problem at all. I wouldn't have suggested this to anyone else, Tion admitted. Most people wouldn't waste time learning so many things at the body refinement stage. These skills lose their edge once you reach the Spirit Gathering or Godbridge realms. Don't worry, Master, I said confidently. With my comprehension, I'll master these in a year. It won't slow me down. Tion nodded, knowing my talent was freakish. He started explaining the techniques in detail. The Flying Dagger was for long-range precision. The Golden Bell Shield was a simplified version of a legendary great divine power from our sect. It was incredibly tough. Finally, Dragon's Might was the sonic attack. It mimicked the roar of a true dragon to paralyze enemies with fear. The more he spoke, the more excited I got. These weren't just random skills. They filled every gap in my current arsenal. After explaining the formations, Tion finally left me to my training. I watched his retreating figure, feeling a surge of gratitude. He had gone through so much trouble just to keep me safe. It was true what they said. Having an elder in the house is like having a hidden treasure. I smiled, picked up the first book, and began to read. I wasted no time and dove straight into my cultivation. I had 3 super combat techniques to master, and I didn't stop until I pushed every single one of them to the ultimate realm. It was an exhausting process. It cost me 6 full epiphany opportunities just to perfect those 3. But I wasn't done yet. I looked at the other techniques I'd been planning to learn. The Gale Step, the 9-turn Tyrant Fist, and the Myriad Swords Returning to the Sea. I pushed all of those to the ultimate realm too. That cost me another 3 epiphanies. Finally, I turned my attention to the 3 formations Tion had left me. 3 more epiphanies later, I had mastered those as well. By the time I finished, I had burned through 12 epiphany opportunities in a single session. Aside from the time I spent on the Chaos Sutra, this was the most I had ever spent in one day. When the sun rose the next morning, I opened my eyes and checked my system. I only had 14 epiphanies left. I wasn't worried, though. I didn't need any more for now. My head was filled with knowledge, but knowing a technique is one thing. Using it in a life-or-death struggle is another. Combat is fluid and unpredictable. You can't just perform moves like you're on a stage. You have to know exactly when to strike and when to pivot. I needed real battle experience to digest everything I'd learned. Right then, a notification pinged in my mind. New mission, challenge the hidden dragon rank. Reach the top 50, reward 1 epiphany. Reach the top 10, reward 3 epiphanies. Reach the top 3, reward 5 epiphanies. Reach first place, reward 10 epiphanies. My eyes lit up. I had just depleted my stash, and the system was already offering a way to refill it. Perfect timing. The only problem was, I had no idea what the hidden dragon rank was. I hadn't been at the Chaos Sacred Land long enough to learn the local rankings. I stood up and went to find Uncle Fu. I didn't want to bother my master, Tion. The old man didn't have much longevity left, and he needed every second to focus on breaking through to the heaven realm. Uncle Fu had been here for years. He'd know the answer. I found him in a side palace, coaching Lin Xiaoya on the Gale Step. Xiaoya had already mastered her 1,000 shadow whip, but after losing to Fu Miaodong, she was desperate to get stronger. Uncle Fu watched her move and shook his head. With your talent, trying to master a super combat technique is a bit much. It'll take you 10 years just to reach the great success stage. It's almost a waste of time. Xiaoya pouted, looking frustrated. But senior brother learned it in a single day? 10 years. The gap between us is too big. That's the difference between a genius and a mortal, Uncle Fu sighed. Listen, once you go to the true dragon nest, just focus on finding some treasures to boost your physical strength by a couple 100,000 pounds. Then, break through to the spirit gathering realm immediately. Don't waste more time in body refinement. I understand, Master, Xiaoya said obediently. I won't fall too far behind senior brother. I walked over with a smile. Xiaoya, since when do I have a tail for you to chase? Senior brother. She beamed at me. You know the Gale Step too, right? Can you give me some pointers? I nodded. I had already pushed the Gale Step to the ultimate realm. My understanding of the technique was probably on par with Uncle Fu's by now. Sure, but first, I need to ask Uncle Fu something. What is it, young master? Uncle Fu asked. I want to know about the hidden dragon rank, I said. Uncle Fu blinked in surprise, then laughed. That's a ranking for the outer disciples. Only the top 100 can make the list. Anyone on that rank gets special treatment and way more resources than the average disciple. Can I challenge it? I asked. Uncle Fu chuckled. Of course you can. The outer disciples are all in the body refinement or spirit gathering realms. But you're the disciple of a grand elder. You already have more resources than they could dream of. There's no real need for you to bother with it. I don't care about the resources, I told him firmly. I need real combat experience to sharpen my skills. Uncle Fu's expression shifted to one of approval. You're right. You're heading to the true dragon nest soon. If you can't apply your power in a real fight, all that talent is wasted. That sounds exciting. Xiaoya jumped in, her eyes sparkling. Master, I want to challenge the rank too. Uncle Fu nodded and summoned a cloud. He ushered us onto it, and we began flying toward our destination. As we soared through the air, he explained the rules. You don't actually fight the other disciples directly, he said. To enter the hidden dragon rank, you have to enter the illusionary magic tower and defeat the phantom clones they've left behind. The illusionary magic tower. I asked, what's that? Xiaoya raised her hand like a schoolgirl. I know this one. It's amazing. It holds phantom clones of the strongest disciples in the history of the Chaos Sacred Land. It lets us spar with the legends of the past to gain experience. Uncle Fu nodded. Exactly. The tower records your data. The top 100 disciples of the current generation all have clones in there. You just have to beat them to take their spot. I grinned. This sounded perfect. So if I win, my clone stays there for future disciples to challenge. If you're in the spirit gathering realm or lower, your clone stays as long as you're on the rank, Uncle Fu explained. But if you defeat the historical strongest disciples, the ones who were the best in their era, your clone will stay there forever. Future generations will see your image for thousands of years. I laughed, feeling a surge of ambition. I like the sound of that. It'll give the new kid someone to look up to. Senior brother, are you bragging again? Xiaoya teased, rolling her eyes. Uncle Fu gave us a small, serious smile. Don't underestimate those historical geniuses, young master. Each one was a hegemon of their era. They were all peerless talents. That just makes the challenge better, I said confidently. Uncle Fu's cloud was fast. In less than half an hour, a massive, ancient structure appeared on the horizon. I narrowed my eyes, staring at the illusionary magic tower. It was time to see where I stood. The tower loomed before us, even more massive than the Star Pavilion. It pierced through the clouds, surrounded by swirling mists and a divine radiance that took my breath away. It felt ancient and heavy with power. Beside me, Lin Xiaoya gasped. I was just as stunned. This is a saint weapon, Uncle Fu said, his voice thick with pride. If a saint were to activate it personally, its power could swallow an entire kingdom. My heart skipped a beat. I came from a small kingdom myself. I knew what that meant. Hundreds of cities and nearly 1 billion people. To think a single weapon could engulf all of that was terrifying. They say everyone beneath the saint realm is just an ant. Looking at this tower, I finally understood why. I didn't want to be an ant. I wanted that power. We landed at the entrance. The place was packed, far busier than the Star Pavilion. It reminded me of a crowded marketplace back home. Our sect rules state that disciples can't leave for real-world experience until they reach the Divine Bridge realm, Uncle Fu explained. So, everyone comes here to sharpen their combat skills. It's always this lively. I nodded, but my eyes were drawn to 14 massive stone tablets standing next to the tower. Some were white, others black. Are those for testing strength too? I asked. Uncle Fu shook his head. No, those are for glory. The 4 white tablets record the strongest current disciples across different ranks, the Qianlong, Shenglong, Jinlong, and Saint ranks. The 10 black ones, those are the legends. They list the strongest geniuses in the history of the Chaos Sacred Land, from the body refining realm all the way to the heaven realm. My interest piqued. My master is the top Grand Elder, right? I want to see where he stands on the transcendent rank. I walked over to one of the black tablets. Uncle Fu followed me with a smile. This stone listed the top 100 transcendent realm experts in our entire history. Each name represented a monster who had dominated their era. At the very top, in the number 1 spot, was the founder. The founder possessed the chaos physique, Uncle Fu said softly. He swept through the heavens and was unrivaled in the world. He holds the top spot on all 10 historical tablets. Seeing that name fueled the fire in my chest. I needed that chaos physique. I wanted to be that legendary. I scrolled down the list, passing dozens of unfamiliar names. Finally, at the very bottom, rank 100, I saw it, Dtion. My master was barely hanging on to the last spot. How is that possible? I blurted out. I heard master is the strongest in the sect and can fight people in the heaven realm. How is he only 100th? Uncle Fu sighed. Our sect has existed for countless ages. We've seen more geniuses than you can count. The fact that your master is on this list at all is a miracle. In the current generation, he's the only one from our sect whose name is even carved on these stones. I stared at the tablet in silence. If a powerhouse like Dtion could barely make the cut, how strong were the people above him? Was the founder able to jump 2 entire realms to fight saints? One day, I told myself, my name will be on these stones. And it won't be at the bottom. It's time, young master, Uncle Fu said. I nodded and walked into the tower with Lin Xiaoya. Uncle Fu stayed behind, his eyes fixed on the white Qianlong rank tablet. He believed in me. He expected my name to appear there soon. The moment I stepped through the doors, the world shifted. I found myself standing on a desolate black plain under a stark white sky. Lin Xiaoya was gone. I was completely alone. What is this place? I muttered. I wasn't scared. This was sect ground, but the sudden silence was eerie. This is the illusionary space, a cold, detached voice echoed in my ears. I spun around, but the horizon was empty. Do not look for me. I am the spirit of the tower. You may call me Illusion. I remembered Uncle Fu mentioning that saint weapons had spirits. Illusion, I said clearly. I want to challenge the Qianlong rank. Understood. Transporting the phantom clone of the 100th ranked disciple. Defeat him to take his place. Light flashed in front of me. A young man appeared wearing the robes of an outer disciple. His expression was blank, his eyes cold. I am Linjia. Please advise, the clone said. He didn't wait. He lunged at me, his sword whistling through the air. Sword chi exploded outward, dazzling and sharp. I squinted. He was in the spirit gathering realm. It made sense. The Qianlong rank covered both body refining and spirit gathering. Usually, a body refining disciple stood no chance against someone who could manipulate spiritual energy. But I wasn't a usual disciple. I didn't even move. I stood there and let his sword chi slam into my chest. Clang. It felt like a breeze hitting a mountain. My physical defense was too high for him to even scratch. I brushed a bit of dust off my sleeve. Is this it? I asked. He had maybe 150,000 pounds of force. I had 700,000. The gap was a joke. I stepped forward, using the godly wind step. Before he could react, I threw a single punch. Boom. The clone shattered into light. Too weak. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed throughout the entire mountain, vibrating in the air for everyone to hear. Congratulations to Xiao Zhan. disciple of the Grand Elder, for reaching rank 100 on the Qianlong list. Outside, the crowd went silent for a heartbeat before erupting into a frenzy. Xiaozhan, he's actually here. He's only in the body refining realm, and he beat Lin Jie? Lin Jie was at the peak of spirit gathering. They say geniuses in the Forbidden Realm can jump levels to kill. I guess the rumors are true. People crowded around the stone tablet where Uncle Fu stood, their eyes glued to my name. They wanted to see how far I could go. Inside the tower, I wasn't finished. I was just getting started. I was going to sweep the entire list. As I stepped away from the stone tablet, I saw Lin Xiaoya standing with her head hung low, looking completely defeated. She walked up to Uncle Fu with a face full of shame. "Master," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I failed you. I couldn't even break into the top 100. Uncle Fu just smiled kindly at her. He didn't look disappointed at all. He told her that the person at rank 100 was already at the peak of the spirit-gathering realm. There was a massive gap between their cultivation levels. Unless she stepped into the forbidden realm of body refining, beating someone like that was impossible. "What about senior brother?" Lin Xiaoya asked, her eyes widening. "He's already in the forbidden realm. Did he beat Lin Jie?" Uncle Fu nodded and pointed toward the massive stone tablet. "Look for yourself. Your young master is already rank 100. Lin Xiaoya's eyes scanned the bottom of the list. There it was. My name, Xiaozhan, was glowing with a brilliant golden light. She let out a cheer, her sadness vanishing instantly. She wondered aloud just how high I could climb today. Uncle Fu didn't answer, but his eyes were fixed on the tablet, filled with anticipation. By now, a massive crowd had gathered. Disciples from all over the Chaos Sacred Land were shoving and pushing to get a glimpse. The area was packed tight, and every single eye was glued to my name, waiting to see if it would move again. Inside the tower, I was a bit confused. I looked at the illusory spirit of the tower. Why was that spirit-gathering disciple so weak? I asked, was he just a beginner? The tower spirit's voice was cold and flat. Lin Jie was at the peak of the spirit-gathering realm. I froze. I couldn't believe it. The peak? How is that possible? He felt like nothing. The spirit explained the math to me. When a cultivator moves from body refining to spirit gathering, their strength doubles with every subrealm they cross. There are 5 stages: early, mid, late, peak, and great circle. Lin Jie had only reached a strength of 30,000 pounds during his body refining stage. By the time he hit the peak of spirit gathering, that strength had only multiplied 5 times to a total of 150,000 pounds. I did the math in my head and felt a surge of shock. I already had 700,000 pounds of force right now. If I broke through to the peak of spirit gathering, my strength would skyrocket to 3.5 million pounds. The gap between me and a normal genius wasn't just wide, it was a goddamn canyon. The spirit told me that the foundation you build in the body refining realm determines everything. The stronger the base, the more terrifying the growth later. Then why did Lin Jie break through so early with only 30,000 pounds? I asked, is he stupid? His talent was limited, the spirit replied. He had already spent years stuck in body refining. If he waited any longer, he would have wasted his life and never reached a higher realm. He chose progress over perfection. I understood then. That was the harsh reality. Not everyone is a chosen one. Most people just do the best with what they have. But I wasn't most people. "Give me rank 50, I commanded. "As you wish," the spirit said. Light flashed, and a young man appeared. "I am Wang Fei. Please, guide me." He didn't waste time talking. He lunged at me instantly. I knew these were just clones, echoes of the past, so I didn't bother with small talk. I met him head-on. I didn't hold back this time. I unleashed the 9-turn tyrant punch. Asterisk boom. Boom. 2 punches. That was all it took to shatter him into dust. He had about 250,000 pounds of force. He must have been decent in body refining, but against me, he was a paper tiger. Suddenly, a notification popped up from my system. Ding. Host has reached rank 50 on the Qianlong list. Reward, 1 epiphany. Ding. Host has caused a massive sensation. Reward, 1 epiphany. I grinned. So, climbing the ranks was a gold mine for rewards. I could only imagine the chaos happening outside right now. I was right. Outside, The crowd was losing their minds. People were screaming as they watched my name vanish from the 100th spot. He's gone. Did he lose? No, look up. Higher. He's not in the 90s, not the 80s. My God, look at rank 50. The silence that followed was heavy with shock. To jump 50 ranks in minutes was unheard of. Rank 50 was usually reserved for monsters, yet a body-refining kid had just crushed them. Lin Xiaoyao was jumping up and down, clutching Uncle Fu's sleeve. Master, senior brother is incredible. Uncle Fu chuckled. He explained to her that even at the peak of spirit gathering, most disciples only have 5 times their base strength. Since she had a base of 100,000 pounds, she'd eventually have 500,000. Even then, she still wouldn't be a match for me. Back inside, I was feeling greedy. Give me rank 10. A flash of light brought a young man with an arrogant sneer. He looked at me like I was dirt beneath his boots. You dare challenge me, Zhongyin? You don't know your own limits. I blinked. Wait, can this one think? The clones have no consciousness, the tower spirit explained. Those are recorded words he left behind after his own challenge. You can leave a message for your clone too, once you're done. I laughed. So this Zhongyin guy was just a jerk? Fine. I specialize in fixing bad attitudes. I moved like a blur, using the godly wind step to get inside his guard. I didn't kill him immediately. I gave him a proper beating first, venting a bit of frustration on his smug face, before finally ending it with a heavy punch. Asterisk ding. Host has reached rank 10. Reward, 3 epiphanies. Asterisk ding. Host has caused a massive sensation. Reward, 3 epiphanies. Asterisk. I checked my status. I had gained 6 epiphanies in one go, bringing my total to 24. This tower was a literal cheat code. As long as I kept winning and shocking the world, I could harvest endless rewards. Tower Spirit, I said, my voice filled with confidence. Give me rank 3. The system chimed in again, offering 5 more epiphanies if I could take down the 3rd spot. I needed every single one if I wanted to master the Chaos Sutra. As you wish, the spirit said. A calm-looking young man appeared. I am Lu Haochu. Please, guide me. He bowed politely, and then exploded toward me. We exchanged a few blows, and I felt the weight of his strikes. He had 450,000 pounds of force. That meant he had reached the great circle of body refining before breaking through. He was a true genius. But compared to me, he was still just a stepping stone. Lu Haochu didn't stand a chance. It took only a few moments for me to crush him. The math was simple, 70,000 pounds of force against 45,000. The gap was a canyon, and I walked right over it. I officially claimed the 3rd spot on the Qianlong leaderboard. Outside the illusionary magic tower, the atmosphere had reached a boiling point. Word of my climb had spread through the chaos sacred land like wildfire. A massive crowd of disciples had gathered, their eyes glued to the stone monument tracking the rankings. Among them was Lingjia. He had been ranked 100th, but my arrival had bumped him down to 101. He stared at my name, his face pale with shock. 9 rings of the bell? He really is a monster. To have this much power in the body refining realm is unheard of. Nearby, Zhang Yun stood in awkward silence. He remembered the arrogant message he'd left for his clone in the tower, the one I'd just beaten out of him. He looked like he wanted to vanish into the floor. Lu Haochu, still recovering from his defeat, turned to the man standing next to him. Senior brother Zhang Jing, you only have 50,000 pounds of force more than me. I don't think you can stop him. Zhang Jing, the 2nd-ranked disciple, just smiled faintly. I don't think he's going to challenge me. He's going straight for number 1. Both men turned their gaze toward a young woman standing a short distance away. Her name was Shi Chunyu. She was the undisputed queen of the outer disciples. It wasn't just her talent that made her famous. She possessed a beauty so devastating it was said her admirers could wrap around the tower 10 times over. Even one of the sect's holy sons was rumored to be pursuing her. The crowd whispered as they looked between her and the monument. Is Xiao Zhan really going to challenge her? She has 75,000 pounds of force. Unless he's reached the 7th forbidden realm, he doesn't have a prayer. Shi Chunyu stood there in her violet dress, her long black hair swaying in the breeze. She looked like a goddess. Her eyes were fixed on my name. To her, I wasn't a stranger. Everyone knew the guy who rang the bell 9 times and then entered the forbidden realm. The disciple's opinion of me had shifted from calling me a fool to viewing me with genuine awe. She bit her lip, a faint blush creeping onto her snow-white skin. A man like that is the only one worth following. Li Bufan is nothing compared to him. Inside the tower, I didn't hesitate. I skipped the second rank and challenged the top spot. A flash of light blinded me, and when it cleared, a woman in a purple dress stood before me. She was breathtaking. I blinked, surprised that the strongest outer disciple was not only a woman, but a literal 10 out of 10 beauty. Shi Chunyu, once made a vow, her clone said, her voice melodic but firm. If anyone can defeat my shadow, I will become their follower. I stared at her, stunned. She actually left a message like that? Wasn't she afraid some ugly creep would beat her? Then again, she was at the peak of the chi-gathering realm. If anyone got close to beating her record, she'd likely just break through to the next realm, and her clone would vanish from the rankings. She was smart. I felt a spark of excitement. My junior sister, Lin Xiaoya, was a beauty, but this woman was on another level. I'm a healthy guy. The idea of having a follower like her was definitely a motivation boost. Let's see if you're as tough as you are pretty, I muttered. She didn't waste time talking. Rain silk, she cried. A silver needle, pulled by a thin red wire, shot toward me like a bolt of lightning. It was a hidden weapon. Taiji Divine Palm. I yelled, pivoting my weight. I felt the impact immediately. Crack. My defensive energy shield actually fractured. My pupils shrunk. 75,000 pounds of force. She had surpassed the extreme limit of the body refining realm and was knocking on the door of the one forbidden realm. I couldn't play around. Golden Bell Shield. I warred. A massive, golden bell manifested around me, clanging loudly as it deflected her follow-up needles. Drizzling rain. Shi Chunyu didn't stop. She danced forward, her fingers flicking with lethal grace. Dozens of needles swarmed toward me like a spring mist. I knew I couldn't just sit there and take it. She had 5,000 more pounds of force than me. In a straight clash of power, she had the edge. But I had something she didn't. Multiple ultimate battle skills. Flying dagger. I flicked my wrist, sending a blade whistling through the air to cut her wires. At the same time, I cycled between my palm and my shield, barely holding the line. It was time to stop being a punching bag. I needed an opening. Dragon's Roar. I unleashed a devastating sonic blast. The air rippled with the force of a true dragon scream. The sound tore through the space between us, and for a split second, Shi Chunyu's clone froze, stunned by the sheer volume of the attack. The clone's body shuddered as the sonic wave hit. Her silver needles veered off course, missing me by inches. This was my chance. I didn't hesitate. I triggered the Godwind Step, a movement technique I had pushed to the ultimate battle realm. In a literal flash, I turned into a bolt of lightning. My speed was now on par with the legendary lightning physique. I blurred past her and reappeared directly behind her. There was no room for chivalry here. I gathered my energy into the 9-turn tyrant punch and slammed my fist into her back. It was just a phantom clone, after all. If it had been the real Shi Chunyu, I might have been a bit more gentle. But for this fight, I showed no mercy. The clone shattered. Asterisk ding. Host has ranked first on the Qianlong leaderboard. Reward, 10 epiphanies. Asterisk. Asterisk ding. Host has caused a massive sensation. Reward, 3 epiphanies. Asterisk. I checked my system status. I now had 45 epiphanies saved up. A massive grin spread across my face. Once I returned from the true dragon nest, these rewards would turn me into a monster. Congratulations to Xiao Zhan, disciple of the Grand Elder, for claiming the top spot on the Qianlong leaderboard. A booming voice echoed from the magic tower, vibrating through the entire mountain. Outside, the crowd went silent for a heartbeat before erupting into a frenzy. Every eye turned toward the stone monument. At the very top, my name glowed with a brilliant, golden light. He actually did it, someone whispered. He challenged the first rank and won. How is that possible? Shi Chunyu had 75,000 pounds of force. To beat her, Xiao Zhan must have entered the 7 forbidden realm. The realization sent shockwaves through the crowd. To possess that kind of talent meant I was now on the same level as the holy sons from the other 5 great sacred lands. The outer disciples felt a sense of total defeat. I had already beaten 100 of their best chi refining experts while I was still in the body refining realm. The gap between us wasn't just a hurdle anymore, it was an ocean. They couldn't even feel jealous. When someone is just a little better, you envy them. When they are a god among men, you simply worship them. Master, senior brother took first place. Lin Xiaoya shouted, jumping for joy next to Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu was stunned. He knew the odds were stacked against me. Shi Chunyu had more raw power and a higher cultivation level, which usually meant an absolute advantage. My victory proved I wasn't just fast at cultivating. I was a natural-born killer in combat. He looked at the leaderboard and felt a swell of pride. He knew then that choosing me was the best decision his master ever made. I was going to forge the chaos physique. There was no doubt left. Suddenly, a loud laugh cut through the chatter. Interesting. Senior brother Xiao actually defeated senior sister Shi, a man called out. It was Zhang Yun, ranked 10th on the board. He had a nasty smirk on his face. Sister Shi, if I remember correctly, didn't you leave a message in the magic tower? You said that if anyone could defeat your clone, you would choose to follow them forever. The crowd exploded again. All eyes shifted from the leaderboard to the real Shi Chunyu, who was standing in the middle of the plaza. Is that true? She's going to follow him now. Wait, doesn't one of the holy sons have his eye on her? This is going to get messy. Xiaozhan isn't a holy son anymore. If he crosses a holy son, he'll have to bow his head. Shi Chunyu frowned, her eyes narrowing as she looked at Zhang Yun. She knew exactly what he was doing. Zhang Yun was a bully who had once harassed a female disciple, and she had taught him a lesson for it. This was his petty way of getting revenge. But she didn't care about a clown like him. She had already made her decision to follow me. It didn't matter if the world knew. Nearby, Lu Haochu, ranked 3rd, looked at Zhang Yun with disgust. He's doing this on purpose. He's a small-minded coward. Zhang Jing, the second-ranked disciple, nodded. He also admired Shi Chunyu, but he was more realistic. A woman like senior sister Shi, only someone like senior brother Xiao, is worthy of her. We should be happy for her. Lu Haochu sighed, his heart a bit heavy. He had challenged Shi Chunyu's clone countless times hoping to win her over, but he never could. I just hope the Holy Sun doesn't make things difficult. He considers her his personal property. He won't care about Xiaozhan's status. Back at the monument, Lin Xiaoya's face was bright red. She glared at Shi Chunyu, her eyes full of hidden jealousy. What kind of girl makes a vow like that? It's shameless. Look at her. She's clearly just a fox spirit trying to seduce my brother. Uncle Fu glanced at her and hid a smile. He had seen enough of the world to know what was happening. Lin Xiaoya was falling for me, but she was too young to realize it herself. Xiaoya, Uncle Fu said gently. A genius like your senior brother will always attract followers. Today it's Shi Chunyu. In the future, when he becomes truly powerful, he'll have followers covering the entire land. Lin Xiaoya pouted, looking frustrated. She knew he was right. My light was becoming too bright to hide, and everyone wanted a piece of it. In the chaos sacred land, having followers was a status symbol. The top 10 holy sons each had dozens of them. Even if Lin Xiaoya wanted to stop it, she couldn't. These followers would eventually become my private army, helping me secure my future position as the leader of the sect. Suddenly, a booming voice echoed from inside the illusionary magic tower. Congratulations to Xiao Yun, disciple of the Grand Elder, for ranking 100th among the strongest body refining practitioners in the history of the Chaos Sacred Land. The crowd on the mountain froze. Everyone turned their heads toward a massive black stone monument standing next to the tower. My name suddenly flickered into existence on the stone, glowing with a blinding golden light. Gasps filled the air. I wasn't just fighting current disciples anymore. I was challenging the ghosts of the sect's greatest legends. And I had won. Shi Chunyu stood in the crowd, her hair dancing in the wind. Her eyes sparkled with an intense, colorful light as she stared at my name. Lu Haochu and Zhang Jing stood nearby, their mouths hanging open in pure shock. Lin Xiaoya and Uncle Fu didn't hesitate. They ran straight toward the monument. These stones recorded the names of every peerless genius who had ever walked these halls. To have your name carved there meant you were part of history, a legend that would be whispered about for thousands of years. Inside the tower, things were getting intense. After I defeated Shi Chunyu and took the top spot on the current rankings, the system had triggered a new mission. It wanted me to climb the historical rankings. The rewards were insane. Reaching 100th place gave me 10 epiphanies. 50th place gave me 30. If I hit 10th, I'd get 50. Third place offered 70. And if I took the number 1 spot in history, I'd get 100 epiphanies. My heart hammered against my ribs. With those kinds of rewards, I could master the Chaos Sutra and forge the Chaos Physique in record time. I want to challenge the 50th rank, I told the tower's spirit. As you wish, the voice replied. A powerful, domineering figure materialized in front of me. As he appeared, the temperature in the room plummeted. Frost crept across the floor, and I felt a sudden, sharp chill. A special physique, I muttered, narrowing my eyes. I wasn't surprised. The 100th ranked fighter I just beat also had a special constitution. It made sense. In the countless years of the sect's history, there had been more than 100 geniuses with special bodies. The figure didn't wait. He lunged, throwing a punch that felt like a mountain of ice. The air froze around me, and a layer of frost began to lock my joints. Ice spirit body, I realized. It was a third-tier king body. Even though it wasn't the highest tier, this guy had pushed it to its absolute limit. He was stronger than any genius I had met in the outside world. Our fists collided. I felt a massive surge of power, at least 500,000 pounds of force. He was much stronger than the lightning body user I fought before, but I still had the advantage. I had 70,000 pounds of raw strength. I didn't waste time. I shattered his defense and ended the fight. My system chimed. I had just earned 30 more epiphanies, bringing my total to 88. I was getting closer. Take me to the 10th rank, I commanded. As you wish. This time, the figure that appeared was different. The sheer pressure coming off him made the entire space tremble. My smile faded. This person was on an entirely different level. Outside, the crowd was losing their minds. They watched my name climb from the 100th spot straight to the 50th. He's actually doing it, someone whispered. He's top 50 in history. Maybe he really can succeed where others failed. Maybe he really will become the Chaos Emperor. The younger disciples looked at me with pure worship. Some were already debating whether they should pledge their lives to me. Following a genius meant resources, protection, and future power. If I became the sect master, my followers would become the new elite. But there was still a shadow of doubt. Everyone knew the story of my master, Tion. He was the greatest genius of his era, with thousands of followers. But because he couldn't break through the Chaos Sutra's curse, his lifespan dwindled, and his followers eventually abandoned him. They feared I would be the same, a brilliant firework that faded too fast. Then, the tower spoke again, its voice like thunder. Congratulations to Xiao Yun, disciple of the Grand Elder, for ranking 10th among the strongest body refining practitioners in history. The silence that followed was deafening. 10th place. I was now officially one of the 10 greatest beginners in the history of the entire Chaos Sacred Land. Even if I never mastered the Chaos Sutra, a talent like this was guaranteed to reach the top of the cultivation world. The rewards were mine. But I wasn't done yet. The news of my success at the Magic Illusion Tower spread through the Chaos Sacred Land like a wildfire. I had claimed the top spot on the Qianlong leaderboard and challenged the strongest figures in history. The storm I caused was impossible to ignore. Deep in meditation, Elder Tian Yi was busy trying to break through to the Heaven Realm. But his associates, Chu Jingxiao and Zhu Ping, weren't so occupied. When they heard the news, their faces turned ugly. Neither of them expected me to be this strong. Zhu Ping looked worried. He knew that if I entered the true dragon nest and brought back treasures, I might help my master, Tian, reach the Heaven Realm. For years, Zhu Ping had bullied Tian, knowing his lifespan was running out. But a breakthrough would grant Tian another 1,000 years of life. He would return to his peak. No, he would surpass it. Tian was already a legend who had forged half of the Chaos Physique. At the Heaven Realm, he'd be invincible. If that happened, even Elder Tian Yi wouldn't be able to protect Zhu Ping. Knowing Tian Yi's selfish nature, he'd probably hand Zhu Ping over just to save his own skin. Let him enjoy his moment, Chu Jingxiao sneered, snapping Zhu Ping out of his panic. It won't last long. Zhu Ping looked up, curious. Young master, what do you mean? Chu Jingxiao gave a cold, mocking laugh. My master told me that the Taichu's sacred land targets our disciples every time the true dragon nest opens. This generation, they've produced a genius with the space-time body. He will definitely kill Xiao Yun inside the nest. Zhu Ping's eyes lit up with a sinister glint. He had forgotten about the rivals. The Taichu's sacred land would never allow a new monster to rise from our sect. No matter how strong I was, could I really beat a supreme physique like the space-time body? It was a power that rivaled the chaos physique itself. To them, I was already a dead man. Meanwhile, on the eastern Jade Peak, another storm was brewing. This was the home of Li Bufan, a saint child of the sect. To be a saint child meant you were a genius recognized across the world. Li Bufan had already surpassed the bridge realm and entered the cave heaven realm. He was a king among the inner disciples. But right now, Li Bufan was furious. A follower had just brought him devastating news. Shi Chunyu, the woman he had been pursuing for ages, wanted to follow me instead. That bitch, Li Bufan hissed, his eyes narrowing. To him, I was a waste. He had seen what happened to Di Tian, how a brilliant star became a joke because of the Chaos Sutra. He was certain I would follow the same path of failure while he ascended to become a saint. Xiao Yun, if you were still the godchild, I might hesitate, he muttered, standing up. But now, you're just an ant. No one takes what belongs to me. He stepped into the air, flying toward the magic illusion tower with murder in his heart. Inside the tower, I was panting on the cold floor. Sweat soaked my clothes. I sat cross-legged, circulating the Chaos Sutra to recover. The technique was terrifyingly efficient. In moments, I was back at my peak. Do you wish to continue the challenge? The tower's voice echoed. I winced and waved my hand. Forget it. That last fight took everything I had. I'm at my limit. I wasn't lying. Beating the 10th rank practitioner in history had been a nightmare. That shadow possessed a second-tier divine body and ultimate battle techniques. His physical strength was 750,000 pounds, 50,000 more than mine. Even with my 7 ultimate techniques, I barely scraped a win. It was a wake-up call. If a second-tier divine body was that terrifying, how powerful was the space-time body from the Taichu sacred land? I couldn't afford to be arrogant. I needed to work harder. Once I fully forged the chaos physique, I'd be truly invincible, but I wasn't there yet. I checked my system and felt a surge of excitement. My epiphany count had jumped to 141. With this many, I could forge the chaos physique the moment I returned from the true dragon nest. I had a choice. I could stay and cultivate now, but I wanted more. I wanted to match the founder's legacy. He had reached a physical strength of 1 million pounds during the body refining stage. If I didn't match that, my chaos physique wouldn't be the strongest version possible. I didn't just want to be a genius. I wanted to dominate the heavens and the earth. Time to head out, I muttered. When I stepped out of the magic illusion tower, the sight took my breath away. A sea of people stood there, every single eye fixed on me. The silence was heavy, and I felt a bit awkward being the center of such intense worship. Then, I saw her at the front of the crowd. It was Shi Chunyu. I had fought her phantom inside the tower, but the real woman was breathtaking. Her purple dress fluttered in the breeze, and her beauty made the surrounding mountains look dull. She was waiting for me. The purple dress clung to Shi Chunyu's curves, tracing every line of her perfect figure. She looked like a goddess who had just stepped out of the moon palace, radiating an elegance that seemed to gather all the spiritual energy of heaven and earth into one person. I felt a sharp coldness from my side. Lin Xiaoyao was pouting, her eyes fixed on me as I stared at the beauty in front of us. She let out a heavy, dissatisfied huff. Nearby, Fu Bo just stood there with a beaming smile. I could tell what he was thinking. I had just claimed the 10th spot on the historical rankings. My name was etched in history forever. Shi Chunyu moved toward me with graceful, light steps. Her long black hair danced in the wind, making her look like a celestial being descending to the mortal world. Senior brother Xiao, she said, her voice soft but clear. I once made a vow. I swore that if anyone could defeat my phantom clone, I would follow them. Today, you defeated me. I wonder if you are willing to accept me as your follower. She stared at me with eyes that shone like bright stars. I had to admit, Facing the favor of such a peerless beauty was overwhelming. I couldn't think of a single reason to refuse her. If I did, I felt like the world itself would turn against me and shatter my chaos physique out of spite. I gave her a sincere smile. I'm honored by your favor, junior sister she. From now on, we can encourage each other and seek the great Tao together. Shi Chunyu let out a small, relieved smile. She had been worried I might reject her in front of everyone, which would have been a massive humiliation. Shi Chunyu, I will not allow you to follow a useless person. A roar thundered from the sky, exploding across the mountain peak. The trees shook violently from the sheer force of the sound. A streak of crimson light tore through the air, landing on the peak with a heavy, domineering pressure. The weight of it made everyone gasp. I looked up and saw the newcomer. The crowd recognized him instantly. It's Holy Sun Li Bufan, someone whispered. I heard the murmurs spreading through the disciples. Apparently, Li Bufan had been pursuing Shi Chunyu for a long time. Now that she had chosen to follow me, he was clearly ready to tear off his mask of civility. It made sense. With his pride, he wasn't the type to watch the woman he wanted throw herself into someone else's arms. The crowd started to back away, clearing a wide space for us. They looked at me with pity. To them, I was no longer the son of God. In their eyes, both my status and my current strength were far below Li Bufan's. They were just here to watch the show. In the back of the crowd, Zhang Yun, the man I had bumped down to 11th place, watched with a malicious grin. He looked at Shi Chunyu with spiteful eyes. He was clearly enjoying this, waiting for the moment I would finally run out of luck.